Let's blast off. Let's get into it. There's a lot to talk about. Dems are mad at their own voters. Trump Putin call and the future of Ukraine. Trump constitutional crisis showdown at the courts as they gut the federal agencies. Is your dentist bald? No, but it wouldn't matter. Sony state of play as they unveil Bloodborne 60 FPS. Get in now. How are you not banned from Twitter? Because it's the same principle behind how am I not banned from Amazon, like Amazon platforms. How am I? One, I play ball, okay, and two, I make them money. It's that simple. I generate revenue for their platform. I am a power user, and I have 1.5 million followers. Like, Elon Musk gave me a check mark. I didn't even want the check mark. He gave me a check mark because I was one of the power users on the platform. Unless the gynecologist isn't naked with me, I don't want it. Okay, maybe that's a bit too far. Blast off meme, bomb lefts. What the hell is this? This is not even a meme. This is just, what is this background? It's just me. Oh, is it because it's Squid Game? Oh my God, everyone is so one note. Did I talk to you guys about Squid Game, by the way? I watched the second season. It wasn't as good as the first, but it was definitely better than I expected it to be. Uncle Sam called Richie Torres' office this morning to apologize for demanding the Democrats do something. Like, I didn't like the cliffhanger it ended on, obviously, but like, I will say this. I definitely had lower expectations from season 2. And it definitely, I had low expectations from season 2. It went above my expectations, and it actually was pretty good. There's a nice quote about having to do with capitalists selling rope. Yeah, exactly. Them Koreans will serve you a social quandary. I'll tell you what, they will. Well, you know, understandable. Their society has been ripped apart. Their country has been cut in two, and their society has been ripped apart by the most treacherous nature of imperialist capitalism. So I think, understandably, they have a lot of criticisms of that sort of thing. But yeah, we'll watch Sony State of Play later at 2 p.m. Thank you, Themasius, for the playlist.
Donald Trump.
We're obviously going to get started with some foreign policy and Russia and Ukraine, specifically. Speaking of Korea, Kim Il-sung on Jusha in our revolution. Yeah, no, that's true. He was. I thought it was Mao Zedong. I thought it was the Little Red Book, but a collection of Mao Zedong writings, but maybe it was Kim Il-sung. Maybe he's Jusha. The Eagles are very Jusha coded. Self-reliance. Go Birds. Anyway, are you gonna play the co-op Elden Ring? Yeah, I'm down. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got for as far as personal news. Let's get into it. We have the situation with the Democratic Party. They had a meeting with like Our Revolution and Indivisible and numerous other like Democratic Party booster groups, right? Like activist groups that do door knocking for the Dems. Like they literally are a part of their network, right? Important parts of their network. They had a meeting with them the other day, and ironically enough, in that meeting, the Dems got very upset. Apparently, why were they very upset? Well, they were very upset because those groups were demanding the same exact thing that we've been saying, which is, hey, can you guys do something, please? Like the country is getting ripped apart and we're watching it unfold, and it kind of seems like you guys are asleep at the wheel. Well, it turns out the Dems got very mad. Not mad at the Republicans, mind you, mad at those liberal groups like Move On and Indivisible. Now, these guys are not Marxist-Leninists, okay? Let me explain something to you. These people are not in any way, shape, or form revolutionary groups, okay? We're talking about Move On and Indivisible. They're liberal groups. They work within the confines of the Democratic Party for the most part. Now, of course, they're a little bit more progressive than the Democrats on key issues, for sure. But overall, this is the heart of the Democratic Party's door-knocking operation. This is at the heart of the Democratic Party's, like, outreach operation, okay? These are regular-ass libs. And it's understandable that these regular ass libs are saying, hey, Democrats, can you lead, please? What is happening? Well, it turns out Democrats are pissed off at them. So one of the groups, pejorative now, extends to any cohort of humans asking Democrats in any organized fashion to do anything beyond just fundraising, sending death robots to Israel and shrugging. Anyone who wants politicians to do politics is a pie in the sky purist. We have officially gotten to a point. Where the Democrats are basically stating like, oh, you want us to actually do things? You want us to actually stop the Republican Party, for example, or try to stop the Republican Party, for example? What kind of ridiculous activism is this? It is kind of crazy that this is the state of affairs within the Democratic Party. Okay, a rudderless ship operation simply designed to extract resources from as many people as possible so that they can basically send all of that money back to, I don't know, different kinds of marketing initiatives that their friends and their immediate family members work at. It's this massive grift. It's this money extraction operation. And there is no way, there is no reason to demand anything from them. Just give them money and shut the fuck up. At least they are not the Republicans. This is basically this is my criticism of the Dems in full display. Like, this is them basically admitting what I say all the time. It's like they just looked at the situation and said, nah, what do you mean? No, like, what did you think this was? You misunderstood. No, we are not the Republicans, so give us money and shut the fuck up. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. Here's a meme about it.
Party. We love those quippy one-liners that make some people feel good about themselves and make us go viral while stunting any real progress from those pesky naysayers we don't like. I'm speaking. We're the Democratic Party. We sprinted to the right to try to get those people who would never vote for us and absolutely fucking lost. We're the Democratic Party. We currently hold the record for the most deportations, and we consistently vote against migrant communities, and we are not afraid to brag about that. We're the Democratic Party. We funded a genocide. We're the Democratic Party. We marked any emails about Gaza during our presidential campaign as no response, so they would be exempt from any outreach or engagement from us. We're the Democratic Party. We pushed an internal memo to get Biden to say that COVID was no longer a threat to score political points, completely rejecting any science and getting you to take your mask off, further driving a wedge between disabled and immunocompromised people and everyone else, also while doing nothing about long COVID and being extremely unclear about the status that we're in this pandemic. If we could just have that line start at like 2100 and not 0, I think that would really help us. No, they're not gonna look into what manufacturing consent means. They don't ask questions of us. We're the Democratic Party. All that considered, we push for mask bans alongside our Republican friends. We're the Democratic Party. We will always...
Okay, to be fair, masks, scary. Yeah, if you wear a mask, especially if you're at a protest, okay, then it's much harder for the surveillance apparatus to log your identification. So, sorry. Oh, are you sick? Are you sick in public? And you wanted to be a nice person? You wanted to be a thoughtful individual? Fuck you. Except also when push comes to shove, when there's like wildfires, for example, taking place, then we'll actually go back to the exact same groups to be like, hey, we really fucking need masks right now. Can you guys give us some of your masks? It turns out masks are not a face diaper.
Always make concessions to our Republican friends. We're the Democratic Party. We know that the other side is like way worse, so just like give us money. We're the Democratic... Yeah. Oh yeah, you saw that. I know. You said that they were going after people who didn't vote for us rather than us. I know. Yeah. We love that part. We're the Democratic Party. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Slay. The problem here will always be that we have high standards for the Democratic Party. We want them to do good shit all the time versus the Republican Party, who voters have no standards and vote to make neighbors' lives worse instead of better. No, that's not true. Okay. And I'll explain why. I get what you're saying. In terms of the Republican agenda, their agenda is death and destruction, which is easier to do. It's easier to break things than it is to build things. Except that didn't used to be the case. Okay. Post FDR, it was actually much harder to untangle the federal government. It was much harder to advocate for austerity. That is the last 40 years of neoliberalism that has made it so that starving the beast is actually the norm, and people have no expectations from their government, and that Democrats are not expected to actually beef up the federal government in any way, shape, or form. That's like we're inherently antagonistic towards those sorts of initiatives. Okay? That wasn't always the case, though. That was not always the case. There was a time when, the government used to do things and people used to like that the government used to do things. There was a time when we took advantage of these social safety nets, at least to the degree in which it existed, when living standards were better. So I don't think that there is do I believe that the Republicans have an easier go at it than the Democrats do, given the standards and the expectations from the broader American population? Absolutely. The problem is Democrats don't even actually push for any of those things. Anyway, here is the conversation that took place from someone that was there at that meeting, trying to figure out how much I can say without doxing myself. But long story short, there was a meeting/protest today where over 100 community leaders and advocates met with Schumer, among others, and it went horribly wrong because he basically admitted that they never thought about how to fight back. Everyone was mad as hell and demanding Dems do more. At one point, he basically laughs at my mom and smugly tells her that if she wants the community to be helped, then she needs to run for a position and help her community. And then my mom had to sternly remind him that she did, and she ran for her position, and she won, which is why she's there with the rest of the advocates and leaders, because they're doing their jobs, and the top Democrats aren't doing theirs. Super awkward. Remember, the entire dynamic of this meeting that took place yesterday was specifically for community organizers, activists, people that actually work within the Democratic Party, but are directly door knockers and the voice of the Democratic Party, the outreach operation of the Democratic Party, were going back to their elected representatives and going, guys, things are fucking going crazy, okay? Things are blowing up. And if your expectation is that you just sit by and wait for the Republicans to perish due to their incompetence, this is not going to work. You need to help them fail. If possible, please. Can you do something, please? Can you maybe tilt the scales in our favor in any way, shape, or form? And their expectation is no. Also, towards the end, they told the crowd that everything's off the record and they can't be held to their word, Lamau. And then they did. They leaked this meeting that took place. They leaked to the Axios guys that they actually hated. They said that the entire conversation was off the record. And then, of course, predictably, they went back to Axios and leaked to them, which is a center-right publication, of course, that they are pissed off at the liberal groups like Move On and Indivisible. If you are the Democratic Party and you're pissed off at Move On and Indivisible, who is in your corner? There's no one in the base then. You just hate your base. You actively hate your base. You despise your base. This is the base of the party. This is not a lot of people will immediately say, Hassan, you're a socialist. Hassan, you don't like the Democratic Party. You want a proletarian revolution, okay? Hassan, you are inherently antagonistic because you have a biased position on the genocide in Gaza, and that's why you're constantly cynically criticizing the Democratic Party. Those people don't understand that I work within the confines of the existing political structure all the time, okay? This does not mean that I agree with everything, but I understand that if politics is the art of the possible, okay, then do something. Do something and show us what is possible. Okay? Yes, it is correct. I am biased against a country that is doing genocide and a Democratic Party that allowed it to happen. Okay? Having said that, however, I have maintained this position throughout the entire election cycle. If you were in here watching me cover the Democratic Party's incompetence, okay, socialists benefiting immensely from capitalism, got it? What? Dude, I just want healthcare, man. What are you talking about, please? And it's not even just for me. I'm good, all right? It's I understand that higher degrees of socialization and a government that actually allows there to be more unionization will open up opportunities for more political mobilization down the line. That's it. That's it. That's all I'm saying. It is crazy. Do Dems even care about their voter base? No, they don't. And this is my point. Like, anyway, socialist yet, it tremendously beneficial. Capitalism is great for me. Yeah, okay. So what? What's the expectation? I should just shut the fuck up and just be like, no, the Democrats are doing great, guys. And I'll take it one step further. The Republicans are doing great. They're doing great for me. It's awesome. Anyway, it's ridiculous that in this time and space, like, I can't even have any sort of criticism of the Democratic Party from the perspective of someone who wants the Democratic Party to do better. You know? It's ridiculous. Anyway, I've done this throughout the entire election cycle as well. My criticisms, no matter how much people tried to claim that they were like biased in favor of Gaza and cynically aggressive towards the Democrats for allowing death and destruction in Gaza, wasn't just about Gaza. I used Gaza as a way to describe the inconsistencies and the lack of interest from the Dems in actually paying attention to what was going on and the very reasonable demands that its base of support was demanding. Okay? Gaza is a microcosm of that issue at the heart of the Democratic Party right now. There are so many other issues that I also talked about throughout the entire election cycle that the Dems were not responsive to. Okay? And this is another instance where I am explaining to you that I'm not saying this from the perspective of someone who cynically wants to undermine the Democratic Party. There are plenty of people, many very thoughtful leftist content creators out there who I agree with almost entirely, who very actively say, no, it's done. It's over. Dems are done. Throw them in the trash. Okay? Throw them in the trash bin. I'm not saying that. Okay? I'm still maintaining the position that, like, this is the only game in town. And if this is the only game in town, then they have to do something. And it's crazy to me that liberals still turn around and say, yeah, we are the only game in town and you should shut the fuck up. You know? They are actively throwing themselves in the trash by doing stuff like this. Anyway, let's take a look at this closed door meeting, though. Closed door meeting for House Democrats this week included a gripe fest directed at liberal grassroots organizations. Sources tell Axios. Members of the steering and policy committee with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries in the room on Monday complained activist groups like Move On and Indivisible have facilitated thousands of phone calls to members' offices. People are pissed, the senior House Democrat who was at the meeting said, of lawmakers' reactions to the calls. The Democrat said Jeffries himself is very frustrated at the groups who are trying to stir up a more confrontational opposition to Trump. What is your job, Hakeem Jeffries? You are the House leader for the Dems. You are Nancy Pelosi's very own guy. What do you mean you're very frustrated? He's like, oh man, I can't believe I had to take this meeting with these losers and take time out of my busy schedule sucking Silicon Valley executive penis. Because remember, Hakeem Jeffries went to Silicon Valley and talked to the tech execs who are still on board with the Dems, the big boosters and the big donors, and said, hey, don't worry, we'll give you unlimited access when we're in power, just as the Republicans have seemingly given unlimited access to some of the right-wing tech CEOs. We'll do that for you. Okay? A Jeffries spokesperson disputed that characterization and noted to Axios that their office regularly engages with dozens of stakeholder groups, including Move On and Indivisible, including as recently as Monday. Zoom in. There were a lot of people who were like, we got to stop groups from doing this. People are concerned that they're saying we're not doing enough, but we're not in the majority, said one member. Some Democrats see the callers as barking up the wrong tree given their limited power as the minority party in Congress. It's been a constant theme of us saying, please call the Republicans. If the Dems don't listen to us when our demands are, please pressure the Republicans and obstruct every step of the way, please do something, anything, okay? And you're saying, dude, go yell at the Republicans. Why would the Republicans ever listen? I reject and resent the implication that congressional members are simply standing by passively, said Representative Richie Torres. Yeah, he's not. He's not standing by passively. He's actually actively helping the right-wing agenda, as long as it's as long as it's helpful to Israeli causes. The other side, people are angry, scared, and they want to see more from their lawmakers right now than floor speeches about Elon Musk, Indivisible co-founder Leah Greenberg told Axios. Indivisible is urging people who are scared to call their members of Congress, whether they have a Democrat or Republican, and make specific procedural asks. Our supporters are asking Democrats to demand specific red lines are met before they offer their vote to House Republicans on the budget when Republicans inevitably fail to pass a bill on their own. What's crazy about this, okay? What's crazy about the situation is that Chuck Schumer has said that they would pass the budget. Chuck Schumer has said that they would pass the budget. Like the one fight that the Democrats have, the one tool that they have in their tool belt in terms of like stopping process, Chuck Schumer is like, yeah, we're not going to do that. We're the minority party. Who gives a shit? It's amazing. It is truly amazing that there's no fight left in the Dems at all when this is the moment where they're supposed to fight. Even if it was just about Gaza, so what? A genocide being your deal breaker is the only right thing. It's one good example of a single issue voting. Why not double down on that? The reason why is because it is a larger problem, even domestically. Okay? And there are plenty of people, especially people that I talk to, that truly do not care. Okay? They are Western chauvinists. They are American exceptionalists, even if they consider themselves to be progressives. And in order to explain to them this issue, in order to explain to them the problems at the heart of the Democratic Party, I have to not only talk about Gaza, but also talk beyond that as well, because the reality of the matter is these are genuine issues that extend even outside of Gaza. It's understandable that that is a big enough deal for many people, okay, myself included. It's genocide. It's the one red line that most moral people should have, okay? But as my job as a political commentator, my job is to speak to liberals, conservatives, people that are outside of my immediate theological allegiances, okay? No genocide, it's a war. It is a genocide, chatter. I can't believe that you're still doing genocide denial. What a ridiculous situation. I guess I can't even get that mad at people because like virtually every single mainstream media resource is actively undermining the truth. They unfollowed immediately after sending that message, by the way. I know. I'm getting the TYT treatment right now. Wait, what? No. Why are people not putting all that important little next to Bernie Sanders' name to good use? Democratic Party is officially dead. All right. Let's see what Sam Cedar did this morning.
I know a lot of people who listen to this program have probably contacted their representatives. Richie Torres from New York says, I reject and resent the implication that congressional Democrats are simply standing by passively. I want you to call him right now. And here's his numbers.
202-225-4361 for the DC.
I swear I'm not trying to troll here, but is this similar to how typical education in Turkey leads to the denial of the Armenian genocide? Gaza genocide denial is just casual and accepted here. I mean, it's a little different because it's happening right now. Like what's happening in Turkey is, or what has happened in Turkey historically is, yes, education. Like it's not even a talking point. Like people's starting position is that it is a lie, that the Armenian genocide is a lie. That's what you're taught in school. Okay? But nice $2,000 chair, socialist. What is going on, man? Yes, dude, I'm rich. What the fuck? What is happening? Yeah, dude, I have a Herman Miller. You want to know why? Because I sit on this goddamn chair all day, every day. It's probably one of the most important parts of my production. Fuck you mean? Things that actually connect me to the ground, you know? Didn't you have a father figure in your life that explained to you the things that are the most important that you spend the most money on are things that connect you to the ground? Good tires, good shoes, a good bed. And for me, considering I sit on this for 8 to 10 hours every day, yeah, is this like another talking point? Is that what's happening? I have it too. It's nice. Yeah, it's nice as hell. Wait, so why are you complaining? Yeah, I got a nice bed too, man. What's going on? I was just joking. All right. Lies, you've been doing 6-2 regularly. Part-timer is fair. I haven't really been doing 8 to 10 hours these past couple of days. I've still been tired. The post-Japan fatigue. Yeah, best investment of all time. Also, you want to know what's funny? You want to know what's ironic? I didn't pay for this chair. I got it for free. I mean, I would. I paid for the previous chair that I used to have. But yeah, Logitech sent this to me for free. So here, get even more mad about that. The rich get richer. Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but if you're going to get mad about something, get mad at the right things. Also, you can get those fuckers for less than 1K secondhand or refurb. Yeah, there's a lot of, in the era of remote work, a lot of these businesses basically sold off their like assets. So you could cop like a crazy Herman Miller. I don't have a sponsorship with them. They've actually actively told me that they don't want to work with me. It was one of the few companies that I told my manager that I would work with. One, because they make everything in America, as far as I understand, even though their CEO is apparently very anti-labor union, from what I understand. I did ask my management way back in the day to work with them. They literally were like, no, this is not a good brand fit. It is one of the few brands that have refused to work with me back in the day. And it was, I think, directly because of my politics. Having said that, however, yeah, it's great. And you can also get if you can find one in a second hand for cheap, it's worth for sure. I've been a viewer for too long. I've heard the story like 3 times, lol. Yeah, I mean, most of the shit that people yell at me about, they think is new, but it's not. It's just the things that I have also voluntarily revealed. Oh yeah, they saw this and said, "Fuck no." No. This is after. I wanted to work with them back in the day. I think I even mentioned it in this coverage. The Herman Miller CEO basically saying like the most unhinged shit. But yeah, they are very conservative. Exactly. I know the family that owns Herman Miller, super conservative, connected to folks like DeVos's. Really good chairs though. Exactly. Chairs are good, but company is unsurprisingly, or at least like the owners of the company are unsurprisingly very right wing. But I'll still sit on that. You know, second hand, more like second ass. I would only buy new. You're crazy. Madison Seating has secondhand Herman Millers. I bought a steel case chair from them secondhand, and it arrived fully built in an amazing condition. All right, let's keep going. Kind of gay to sit on another man's chair. Yeah, it's good. It's good though, because another man's ass has softened it up for you. You know what I mean? All right, let's see what Sam Cedar is doing. That those little radicals over there at the Majority Report.
Wrong. 718-503-9610.
And apologize for asking the Democrats to do something more. They have no leverage. And you're asking them to do stuff.
Elections have consequences, and Richie Torres was hoping that consequence was a vacation or something.
He's doing the best he can. He resents it.
I resent you people.
He resents the voters. Now you go and call and apologize.
Yeah, you go and call and apologize. I got my mom in a Majority Report after she stopped watching TYT recently. That's the wrong clip. He calls and leaves a message later. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So that's the situation. Dems are mad as hell. Mad at their base for demanding that they do things. How dare you demand that I do things? I don't want to do things. That's crazy. The expectation from me is that I do things. No thanks. Give me money now. All right. Yeah, stop linking the fucking same Adam Johnson tweet. I know, dude. I started off the conversation by looking at this. Okay, please. I know, chatters. I know. This is how we started the convo, okay? God damn. Yeah, nobody wants to work anymore. The Democrats are quiet quitting. You know who's not quiet quitting, though? Freaking Donald Trump, dude. I told you Democrats resent their voters and want to punish them for not voting hard enough for them. I mean, this is an entirely new low for the Dems. One that is difficult to top, really. It's kind of wild. Like the expectation here is that the Dems do the bare minimum responsibility as like the opposition party and represent their constituents. You know, what the fuck do you want the Dems to do? First of all, this should never be like, you should never actually come in here with this kind of energy, okay? Let me explain. One, I talk about what the Democrats should do all the time. I actually showed you the Legion Miller video as well. That was really good in terms of like what they can do. They should be obstructing. They should behave. They should play ball in the same way that the Republicans do when they're the minority party, okay? They have already designed they've already designed a fairly coherent strategy. Obstruct, obstruct, obstruct. Democrats are out here talking about how they'll do bipartisan compromise. Please just give us anything to work with. That is the wrong message. They should be consistently talking about how damaging it is that the Republicans are going with full tilt austerity. I'll take it one step further. The Republicans are not even just going with full tilt austerity. The Republicans, interestingly enough, right now have they have Congress to do things with, right? They have congressional power. And yet, for some weird reason, or not a weird reason, actually, for a very nefarious reason, the Trump executive office is actually deliberately sidestepping congressional approval and doing everything with executive mandate. And I think the reason why they're doing that is because they want to stress test the entire system and see how far they can get away with. Okay? This actually opens up a unique opportunity for constantly taking these battles to the court system and constantly making a big stink and trying to engage in some sort of popular mobilization. Okay? They're not even doing that, however. They're not doing that at all. And that's completely unacceptable. They should be obstructing the process every step of the way. They should be investigating whatever they can. Okay? And they should be making a big fuss every step of the way. Consistently going on television, consistently going and directly speaking out about all of the awful austerity measures that are being implemented. I'll give you one example, right? Elon Musk, in the process, according to The Lever, which is a great publication, by the way, Elon Musk, in the process of like undermining the Department of Education and trying to literally cut funding to public education in this country, has gotten additional billion-dollar contracts for his companies as a defense contractor. How the fuck does that work? You got the richest dude on the planet completely using the government as a cumsock, okay? Using it like as a flesh puppet, undermining teachers at a time when like education is dire to begin with, and talking about firing tens of thousands of federal employees while simultaneously putting more money into his own coffers. That's crazy. You shouldn't have to hear that from The Lever. You should be hearing that from every single Democrat. It is crazy. Like, I'm shocked that Ro Khanna came out with this statement. Like, and it gives you, and Ro Khanna is supposed to be one of the better fighters against the Trump agenda, right? Bill Clinton reduced the federal workforce by 351,000 by working with Congress to have voluntary buyouts under Workforce Restructuring Act. The workforce grew by 2% in Trump's first term. The model for real lasting efficiency is work with Congress. How is that a good thing? I want 10 million more Americans working for the federal government, okay? I don't understand. People look at this and go, that's bureaucracy. That's inefficient. It's like, no, dude, it's a jobs program. That's what the government is supposed to do. Of course, I want more federal employees. I want a bigger government, okay? And a Democratic Party should be communicating why that's a good thing. Give me 200 million American federal government employees, okay? Especially when a lot of the austerity and a lot of the cuts that they're signaling with these executive orders and with DOGE in particular, they don't even make a dent in the overall budget, in our overall spending, because a lot of the spending goes to obviously the military, and a big chunks of the spending actually go to very helpful programs that are very popular. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, they haven't gotten to that part yet, okay? When that part comes, when that battle comes, if the Democrats have nothing to say about that, I don't know what I will do, okay? I don't know what the American public will do. But having said that, these cuts that they're talking about, these cuts that they want to engage in, like I'll use the example of the NIH, okay? The NIH cuts in terms of cutting overhead spending from the National Institute of Health will undermine medical research in this country. This is a devastating thing to do, okay? But the overhead cuts that come with the National Institute of Health grants that are being cut will end up downsizing colleges, okay? What that means is they'll end up having to fire, in red states, public institutions of higher learning in red states will see layoffs. that means you are going to be firing Republicans as well. People do not have the foresight to comprehend how this entire system ties together. Okay? It is ridiculous when you talk about layoffs at the federal level, when you talk about restructuring the federal government, you're talking about tens of thousands of people losing their jobs. Okay? When you talk about cutting the NIH funding, you're talking about, again, tens of thousands of people losing their jobs. Republicans, independents, Democrats alike, Americans that are getting laid off. And for what purpose? Is there a good reason for any of this? No, of course not. But it's ridiculous that Ro Khanna is talking about cutting the federal workforce as a positive. Like talking about Bill Clinton cutting the federal workforce as a good thing. That wasn't a good thing at all. That was a bad thing. What's next? Is he going to talk about how Bill Clinton restructured welfare as a positive? That's ridiculous. Yeah. Alabama is a great example of this. Alabama's second largest employer is the University of Alabama. And Alabama reps, Republicans, as a matter of fact, already complaining about NIH funding cuts because it's going to affect the state's second largest employer. That's it. These guys are so horny for austerity. Remember yesterday when we were talking about the IMF and the World Bank and how they do economic imperialism on the global south? We're doing it to ourselves right now. And they're doing it in a way where they're not even thinking about the genuine damage that they're causing to the lives of millions of Americans. Ridiculous. And if you are not a part of this, like if you don't know anyone that's like a federal employee, if you don't know anyone that like works at a college, whether it's a, woke college professor or not, or even someone in the janitorial staff at a university, if you have no way of comprehending how this will be damaging, okay, you just think, oh, it's great that the government is cutting. It's so costly. It's so costly. They could be spending it on good things. Okay, what are they going to be spending it on? What are the good things that they're going to be spending all of this additional freed up resources on? Here, I'll give you a great example of how these cuts are idiotic at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The CFPB is tasked with a very good purpose, okay? The CFPB has a $1 billion budget. They haven't even used the entirety of their budget. They've only used like a quarter of $1 billion so far. I think they still have $700 million in the tank, okay? And with a quarter of that budget, with a quarter of that $1 billion budget, okay, they were able to bring back to the American consumers $21 billion of fraudulent funds that were extracted from the American consumers, okay? Credit card debt, predatory lenders, things of that nature, okay? Medical debt. That's what they did. That's what the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau did, okay? Which, again, yeah, isn't even funded by taxpayer dollars. It's funded by fees collect. No, you're talking about a different thing. No, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is not what you're thinking of. You're thinking of another thing. You're thinking of, what's the banking institution? The one that, what do you call it? The one that FDIC is what you're talking about when you say it's funded by the banks. The FDIC is funded by the banks, which is ironic because, again, the FDIC also plays a very important role. They are funded by bank fees. The FDIC, if you remember, played a pretty formative role when Silicon Valley was falling apart. And there was a lot of fear. There was a bank run taking place, if you remember. I saw a post by that fucking dipshit Jason, whatever his, what's his face, recently, where he was like talking about how we need to gut the federal government by 10% and let people die. And then I saw someone quote retweeting him about how he was immediately begging the FDIC to save the Silicon Valley banks. No, not Jason, whatever his name is. I don't know what his, Calacanis, this dumbass. Oh, here. Well, that's not what I was looking for, but until we balance the budget, I'm literally randomly cutting everything by 10 to 35% and seeing what happens. Okay? That's what he said. At least on this scenario, we live to fight another day. By the way, this is what happens when individuals who go broke, credit cards turn off, and Netflix get paused, okay? So he's talking about this as a Silicon Valley loser, celebrating like the CFPB getting taken out and stuff like that. Meanwhile, when the bank run was taking place in Silicon Valley a couple years ago, he was begging the FDIC, begging the FDIC to instantly take action. Okay? You should be absolutely terrified right now. That is a proper reaction to a bank run and contagion. POTUS, Secretary Yellen must get on TV tomorrow and guarantee all deposits up to $10 million, or this will spiral into chaos. Second and third order effects reporting for duty. They got to bail SVB out if a white knight/queen doesn't show up this weekend. Yeah, you remember Big Daddy federal government when you're facing down the barrel of a bank run, okay? That's when you remember Big Daddy federal government. It is ridiculous. These guys are such douchebags and so immoral, so incompetent, so stupid. No morality, no consistency in their arguments whatsoever. Okay? Just understand this. I hope everyone here is at least like to a certain degree aware of the things that I'm talking about, okay? I can dive a little bit further into this to explain to you, like, it's a little complicated. I understand. Do you know what the FDIC is, for example, chatters? The FDIC is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, okay? It is a big fund that the federal government has put together, here you go, so that they have deposit insurance for depositors in American commercial banks and saving banks. So in times of financial crisis, when there is not a lot of confidence in the banks, in order for, if a bank is going bankrupt, for example, if they don't have any money, all right, the FDIC basically comes in overnight and takes control over the bank and ensures and guarantees that your deposits are still real. Okay? The FDIC was created by the Banking Act of 1933, enacted during the Great Depression to restore trust in the American banking system. Because without that confidence, without that trust, why the fuck would you ever give your money to a bank? More than 1/3 of banks failed in the years before the FDIC's creation. Okay? And bank runs were common. The insurance limit was usually $2,500 per ownership category, and this has been increased several times over the years, and it's now at $250,000 per ownership category. So the federal government ensures that no matter what kind of financial crisis is taking place, that up to $250,000 of your wealth is protected. Okay? Now, this is one of the many different ways in which the American government, the federal government, is protecting consumers in an invisible way that you don't even think about. Okay? This is good governance. This is good government. This is good legislation initially when it was created. There's a good reason for this to exist. Okay? And that's per bank. Yes, exactly. So that is important for you to understand. Now, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a different federal agency, I believe created in, 2011? The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a different federal government agency that is tasked with combating fraudulent companies, okay? It works to extract resources. It goes after basically fraudulent companies, credit card providers, healthcare, health insurance providers, like all matter of different companies. And the subsequent Great Recession, and is the independent bureau within the Federal Reserve. Throughout its existence, the bureau has been persistently targeted by Republican politicians and the financial industry. The CFPB's status as an independent agency has been subject to many challenges in the court. In June 2020, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the president can remove the director without cause, but allowed the agency to remain in operation. In 2024, the Supreme Court affirmed the constitutionality of the CFPB funding mechanism prescribed by Congress. Donald Trump, at the outset of his second presidential term, appointed acting director Russell Vought, who immediately ordered the bureau to stop regulatory activity. Now, remember, who is this for is a question that you must ask yourself. The answer is rich people. And not even just like any kind of rich people, not even people who are, at the tippy top of American corporations, rich people that want to do fraud. Okay? That's it. It's not just like any kind of rich person. It's the type of rich person that wants to do fraud. Cryptocurrency rich people. Crypto people want this more than anybody else. Okay? Predatory lenders want this more than anybody else. It's like someone said Adam Conover has an episode on a show on the G Word. Exactly. It's like Donald Trump and his cronies watched the G Word and was like, we need to destroy all of these good federal government, all of these good government agencies and initiatives. Okay? The CFPB opened its website early February 2011 to accept suggestions from consumers via YouTube, Twitter, its own website interface. They have extracted, with a $1 billion budget that they've only used 25% of, they've extracted $21 billion back and distributed back to the consumers. Now, there's still $700 million in the tank for the CFPB, even though it's no longer in operation as of, the Trump administration, right? Elon Musk has suggested that they take the $700 million in the tank for the CFPB and give it back to the American consumers. That's a whopping $2 that you get to take back. Meanwhile, they spent the $1 billion budget. The $1 billion budget was able to bring back $21 billion to the American consumer. So you tell me, what's better? $2 back or the $21 billion that it was able to claw back? Ridiculous. On February 1st, 2025, Chopra was fired by President Trump, making Deputy Director Zixta Martinez the acting director of the agency. 2 days later, Treasury Secretary and former hedge fund manager Scott Bessent was named the agency's director and immediately ordered the agency to halt all work. Who's this for, you might ask? This is some boring shit for the most part. The average American doesn't think about this stuff because good government, when it's working, is boring. It's working in ways that you never really comprehend, never really think about. Like the FDA, when you go to the market, to the grocery store, okay, and purchase a steak or purchase poultry, chicken, right? And you don't have to fear that you will consume a shitload of bacteria that will possibly kill you. That is because of the FDA, okay? It's working in a way where society can function. Do you understand? So many things that the federal government does, we take for granted. The NOAA is another one. The National Weather Service, a great example. It is profoundly important for commerce. It's profoundly important for, understanding what the fuck is going on in terms of weather. USDA, exactly. FDA, USDA. These are all different ways in which the federal government works in invisible ways, okay? In ways that improve your life. Without them, we would be in a dire situation. Society would not function. It is crazy that these parasitic monsters want to pick apart the last remaining aspects of the federal government and are trying to basically destroy all of the remaining good parts of the federal government. It's crazy. There's a weird wrinkle about the shutdown of the CFPB. Banks are slowly realizing that they need an enforcer to tell them what the rules are and update those rules if necessary. The libertarian argument we can have a world without rules was always stupid, but in practice, until now, conservatives meant with a wink and a nod that you'd have regulators that were industry friendly, not that you'd have no regulators. And these regulators, at the very least, sorted out disagreements among the banks and financial firms. But now Trump has done what generations of libertarians asked for, but really didn't want, which was to have a world without a regulator. That means a bunch of consumer protection and banking laws still exist, but have no enforcement regime. So do the banks follow those laws or not? What about laws that structure entire industry-wide practices? And no private rights of action aren't really viable. Those pesky arbitration agreements conservatives also love made sure of that. Is Schrodinger's law, or perhaps a conservative movement that finally caught the car? Is unfairness, deception, or abusive practices in financial products now legal? Sort of, but maybe not. In other words, conservatives are going to have to rebuild some sort of administrative capacity under a different name that's going to be doing a lot of the same things. David Dan wrote an article on the CFPB. He said, it turns out that bankers and financiers hate not having an agency enforcing consumer protection laws. It tips the balance towards big banks and could break mortgage and other markets that rely on continuous supervision. Community banks and credit unions are still being regulated and big banks aren't. Rules that make mortgage markets run are in limbo. The industry doesn't want to break the means by which it makes money. This will cause a ton of jobs to be lost at financial institutions too if there's no regulatory enforcement. Tons of back office operations departments are at risk of being shut down if there's no reason for them to exist. I mean, that part for sure, but that's, again, an incredible opportunity for more profit. That means the banks are going to be run more efficiently, with less people. It's so funny that every single piece of regulation, every single rule was written with the ink of blood, okay? And it's ironic that these guys that man the ship and pick apart these regulatory agencies will inevitably cause genuine collapse. And within that genuine collapse, someone will still go back and rewrite the exact same fucking rules because they exist for a good reason. This is not to say This is not to say that there aren't like ridiculous rules or whatever, ridiculous rules or regulations. Of course there are. Having said that, however, this kind of approach where you just undermine these regulatory agencies that are doing good, that are tasked with like actually good shit, you know, making sure that there's some regulatory mechanism against the banks, like taking that apart might lead to short-term profits for these banks, but there is a reason why it was designed to begin with. There's a reason for why we have these rules. It's so stupid. Just like the FDIC. Why does the FDIC exist? Why are banks paying this fee to this agency that has tremendous power over banks in moments of crisis? Because without it, if banks are not regulated, when bank runs occur, people will just destroy the economy. It has happened before. If you have no more confidence in your bank, if the money that you gave to your bank is no longer real money, real currency, you're going to panic. You're going to want to go back to that bank and you're going to want to take out all the money that remains and put it under a pillowcase. Okay? That's what happened. Understandably. Like, what's next? Are we going to go back to every single bank issuing their own currency like we are literally in the Wild West? Fuck it. No more legal tender, okay? Every bank issues their own paper currency and nobody has any control over what how much that currency is actually worth. Let's just go back to the barter system, as a matter of fact. It's ridiculous. And it's ironic that I'm saying this, but like, that's kind of what cryptocurrency is. That's kind of what they want to do. You know? It's craziness. Yeah. DeFi, baby. Decentralized finance. Oh. Anyway, now that I briefly talked about the inevitable collapse, let's get to Russia.
Trump has just announced that he has held a phone call with Vladimir Putin.
I gotta pee.
They covered issues on the Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence. But the concentration of that conversation was Ukraine. And Donald Trump said they discussed that they agreed they wanted to stop the war, stop the deaths in the Russia-Ukraine war. They have agreed to visit each other's nations. Trump has said he will call Zelensky in the very near future. And he said that he and Putin agreed to have respective teams start negotiations immediately. There you can see Donald Trump now posting on it. We both agreed we want to stop the millions of deaths taking place in the war with Russia and Ukraine. And President Putin even used my very strong campaign motto. He says, common sense. We both believe very strongly in it. And he said we agreed to work together very closely, including visiting each other's nations. We have also agreed to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately. So a highly significant moment. Donald Trump is wasting no time. He's been involved in the Middle East. He is now getting involved in Ukraine. Let's bring in our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn. And so, Dominic, it seems that the negotiations are going to get underway pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bombshell notification from Donald Trump from the White House following a bombshell speech by his defense secretary in Brussels. But just to reiterate, because it is very significant, Mark, is what he's saying here, saying that after this 1.5-hour phone call, we agreed to work together. He is saying, the American president agreeing with the Russian leader, very closely, including visiting each other's nations. And the Kremlin has, in the last 5 minutes or so, confirmed that Putin and Trump have agreed to meet. Not quite sure where, but there will be, it seems, another Trump-Putin summit. We've also agreed, the White House, or Donald Trump is saying there, to have our respective teams start negotiations immediately. And this is the significant bit also. We will begin by calling President Zelensky of Ukraine to inform him of the conversation. So that's a break. You know, we have seen all day efforts by not just John Healey, the British Defence Secretary, but other members of NATO to kind of stick fingers in the dike, the crumbling dike of NATO solidarity and unity after what Pete Hegseth said, the Defence Secretary there, trying to give the impression that there is still unity, whereas that impression, as I say, is crumbling because it's a break with what has been 3 years of firm and determination by NATO members to be united and behind the principle of not talking about Ukraine. Nothing is discussed about Ukraine without Ukraine. So we now have a break with that. We have the American president meeting on the phone, talking for an hour and a half with his Russian counterpart, not including Ukraine, discussing Ukraine.
Putin will never allow Ukraine to join NATO, as he shouldn't. I mean, guys, America was never serious about Ukraine joining NATO. Other NATO nations were never serious about allowing Ukraine to join NATO. This is something that I've repeatedly talked about over and over again. Finally, for all the haters in the chat, admit Hassan was right. They're never going to admit that. Okay? Like, this was an inevitability because the war was what determines the outcome of Russia's unjustifiable invasion of Ukraine was always going to be what happens on the ground in the battlefield. Okay? For America, this was an advantageous position. They did not want Ukraine to fall into the sphere of Russian influence, as Russia obviously made many, I wouldn't say demands, I guess, but like Russia definitely was invested in controlling Ukrainian politics. And Ukraine was consistently trapped between Russian sphere of influence and Western sphere of influence. Okay? And in terms of the Western sphere of influence, you thought Russia wouldn't invade Ukraine? Yeah, because I thought it would be a devastating predicament for all parties involved, which I was right about. I like that you're still pointing to this after history has shown time and time again that the numerous other instances where I said this is the opportunity to pull out and engage in ceasefire negotiations when leverage is in the hands. Like, this is the most leverage Zelensky will ever have. It's a great opportunity. It turns out I was right. It's not about whether I'm right or not, okay? So many people have died since then, and the inevitable outcome is still the same. It's crazy that 3 years in, you're still holding on to this insane thing. Now, listen, America's interest in Ukraine always was the same interest that we've had elsewhere, okay? Extraction of natural resources and forcing the government to basically privatize whatever key sectors they still controlled or regulated, okay? And buy it or forcibly sell it off to foreign investment for pennies on the dollar. Donald Trump's difference here, okay? Well, you just said you were right when you were wrong, so of course people won't drop it. Wait, what? No, I admitted I was wrong instantly. I even apologized for it. What are you talking about? I'm stating that the analysis that led me to make this false prediction relied on me assuming that Vladimir Putin wasn't a fucking madman. I think you're failing to understand how words work, okay? I can't understand how you can also come in here and still fucking say this when everything else that I've said since then has basically become reality. There was no need for an apology, really, but I think I should have apologized once again for being super smarmy about my position. It's crazy. 14-year-old Twitch account, divorced father? Probably. Anyway, it's insane how much this comes up because it's like the one crumb they have over you being actually incorrect about something. I know. I think they were referring to how you said you were right about Ukraine not being in NATO, but that is correct. That was never a real thing. Anyway. Do you think Ukraine is in a worse position now that Syria has fallen? No, I think that Russia is in a worse position now that Syria has fallen, which sets the stage for Russia to concede on certain things. Syria was an important asset it was basically a Russian naval base, like a warm water naval base for Russia. That was the reason why Russia offered protection to the Assad regime. Now that Syria has fallen, that definitely was devastating for Russia. That was not a good thing for Russia at all. Russia lost influence in the Middle East, not a large effect for its borders, though. No, I think that it's not just about influence in the Middle East. They kept a naval base in a deal with liberal Al-Qaeda. No, it doesn't matter. They still have it, but they pulled so many of their troops. And that base is never going to be in operation in the same way that it was when Assad was exclusively reliant on Russia for protection. Having to deal with the new HTS regime in Syria is an entirely different demon. Anyway, my point is they're blocking every vehicle from leaving and entering the base. I'm Syrian. Okay. How does Russia having a naval base in Syria even help them at all? I mean, Russia's climate is ultimately very cold. They needed, obviously, Sevastopol for entry point into the Black Sea, which is why they always retain Sevastopol and Crimea. But outside of that, you need warmer naval bases to do upkeep and maintenance. So Syria was their warm water port. It's also probably helpful for all of the Wagner operations or any kind of naval operations you do in the African continent too. I'm sure they'll look for alternative naval bases now if they haven't done so. I'm not entirely sure on Russian naval operations. I'm not up to date, but ultimately, Donald Trump once again did exactly what he has done so far. American foreign policy is uniparty. Donald Trump basically just says the quiet part out loud, where he said, yeah, we're going to continue defending Ukraine, but we want this to, come to an end. And in terms of like all of our defense that we've given to Ukraine thus far, we want your natural resources. You have $500 billion worth of natural resources that we want. The only difference between Donald Trump versus any other Democratic leadership is that Donald Trump basically says the quiet part out loud. One evidence to this is the continuation of the Trump era, the first Trump era policy with NATO. Donald Trump, much criticism was made of Donald Trump undermining the NATO allegiances, right? NATO is a protection racket. NATO is incredibly important for the American military industrial complex. Donald Trump came in and was like, I'm anti-NATO. Everyone was like, oh my God, he's so based. He's an anti-imperialist. What is happening? Is he truly an isolationist? So many think pieces were written about it. What did Donald Trump do? All he said was European allies are going to give more of their own funds and beef up their own personal defense industries and pay more into NATO than what they do currently. What did Joe Biden do? He continued that policy. So clearly, it was not that big of an issue for the Democratic leadership. If it was, they would have reversed that decision. They never did. Donald Trump is back again, demanding more from European partners, okay? Saying they need to invest more into their own defense. Okay? It's like in times where I guess the mafia is experiencing an economic downturn and their protection racket, they go back to the storefronts that they're quote unquote defending and turn around and say, you got to give me more money now. Okay? You got to give me more money now. You got to buy from my own providers even more now. Okay? It's a shakedown. That's what it is. It's not actually supposed to destroy NATO. Donald Trump is not an anti-imperialist or whatever. He's not anti-NATO. He can't be anti-NATO. NATO is very important for American global dominance, but also on top of that, NATO is very important for the military-industrial complex. Okay? So clearly, he is not going to deviate that far from, whatever the prior administration's policies were, because foreign policy always is uniparty. So basically, that's what's happening here as well. The only difference is Donald Trump will openly say insane shit, okay? And also simultaneously say the quiet part out loud. That's the major difference. Biden was never going to come out and be like, we want your natural resources, Jack. Well, Biden wasn't going to say anything. He would say, hubbubba, I did NATO and AUKUS. He would never turn around and be like, Zelensky, you got to give us your natural resources. The Finlandization of NATO. I NATOized Finland. That's what Biden would say. Okay? Not 100% accurate. NATO members agreed in 2014 to spend 2% of GDP on military spending. They hadn't, and Trump just made a fuss about it. Biden can't really reverse course back to noncompliance to an Obama-era treaty. I mean, that even proves my point further, though, don't you think? That it's uniparty. So it's a 2014 era policy that that Trump actually enforced. And he now wants to increase that expenditure individual expenditure of European countries or NATO alliance countries. So, you know, it's just, it was basically a continuation of that. Yeah. They're agreeing with you, Law. No, I know. Well, sometimes that chatter is not always in agreement with me. This is one of those instances where he is. Anyway.
Ukraine, but not including Ukraine. And only after that meeting, they're going to phone Zelensky and inform him about that meeting. That's significant. And also, I think the question that arises out of this immediately is when he says we've instructed our teams to start negotiations. What teams are those? Are these going to be bilateral negotiations between America? Is he talking about his team, the Americans and the Russians, discussing Ukraine's fate? Or is that going to include Ukraine? A lot of questions out of this, of course. And we've heard from the Kremlin already. Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesperson, confirmed the call happened and saying they discussed issues relating to the exchange. The American side, the American side, he says it will fulfill all agreements reached related to the exchange. So the Americans seem to have made, Donald Trump seems to have made commitments in that phone call with Vladimir Putin that the Russians expect him to hold himself to. What are those commitments?
Would Zelensky even agree to any deal that doesn't offer future security, such as joining NATO? Yeah, dude. Yes. What do you mean? I can't. I tried to explain this for the past 3 years to a lot of chatters who did not understand what I was saying whenever I said, Ukraine has no choice in this matter, okay? Autonomy for Ukrainians is simply a thing that the Democratic Party presented in an effort to say, no, we're doing this for Ukraine. When the real reasons why they were doing this, beefing up support for Ukraine, was not because of the morality of the situation, although Ukrainians are on the right side, okay, morally. They are the ones that are invaded, obviously, and it's understandable to not want to be fucking invaded. The American government's interest in Ukraine had nothing to do with morals. The American government does not operate on a moral boundary, okay? They don't care about the morality of a situation. I mean, look at Israel. Obviously, they don't give a shit, okay? It's the exact reverse, if not worse, dynamic, and America is completely on board, okay? No government actually cares about morals when they're making foreign policy, when they're setting their foreign policy agenda. America's interests in Ukraine were, as Trump has also correctly pointed to, openly pointed to, natural resources, extraction of natural resources, and also the privatization of government sectors that can be sold off to foreign capital. Okay? And they have done that already. And also, simultaneously, while they're doing that, that is what they always wanted. But beyond that, they also wanted to use Ukraine as a fantastic opportunity to undermine a foreign adversary's military while dumping off old refurbished weapon systems, while also testing new weapon systems in a battlefield, okay, for improving their procurement strategies, dumping off their old weapons, so that the military-industrial complex could turn around and say, "Hey, we need more money. Look at our munitions. We're depleted." It's a win-win-win for American military-industrial complex and American profiteers in general. The people that obviously lose are the Ukrainian population, as always. And it's not like this was hidden. They openly stated it. Both Elizabeth Warren and Lindsey Graham have time and time again routinely admitted that Ukraine was incredibly beneficial for American interests. For 5% of our military budget, we were able to undermine the foreign adversary's military by 50% without a single American soldier dying in the process. I'd say that's a good bargain. That's what Lindsey Graham said in between talking about Israel. Okay? Elizabeth Warren said that too. Anyone that is involved in any way, shape, or form with foreign policy openly recognized what the truth was. It was never about actually allowing Ukraine to be a part of NATO or anything like that. That was just a way to sell the concept. Is helping Ukraine in military capacity, sending weapons, etc., the wrong move? We're talking about the interests of the Ukrainian people. I feel like it's better to just not be involved in a war as another country. Wait, what? Dude, I don't know. I don't think you understand what I'm stating. If the goal is not to actually free Ukraine from Russian invasion, if the goal is to just simply keep dumping weapons until it gets to a point where Ukraine can no longer fight back because they just simply don't have the manpower, okay, because they're running out of humans to hold the guns and hold the weapons. And also, you're slow releasing those weapons anyway in a way where you are allowing the Ukrainian military to atrophy throughout this process in the fucking meat grinder where they're doing trench warfare, okay? Then you're never going to say to Zelensky that they need to actually nip this in the bud and to come to the table and get to an agreement, okay? That's where the ultimate purpose of, or the ultimate goals of America matter most.
Let's just remind you of our breaking news this evening. And in the past half an hour, Donald Trump has confirmed he's had a phone call with President Putin in which they discussed the war in Ukraine. Let's speak now to our Moscow correspondent, Ivor Ben.
Like, the only reason why this is quote unquote coming to a close, and I don't know what will actually end up happening, okay? But the only reason why this is technically supposedly coming to a close is that finalization is inevitable due to the battlefield, okay? Due to what is going on. Isn't Ukrainian society full of Nazis? Why should we care what happens to the country? No, that is not the case. And holy shit, dude. Jesus Christ. What are you? Are you a Russian propagandist? Like, what are you talking about? The denazification argument was never actually a real one, okay? That was never an argument that I entertained. Are you watching my fucking haters and thinking that that is my perspective? When I have spent hours and hours and hours talking about how the denazification argument was a ridiculous one. As a matter of fact, the only thing you end up doing, and if you want to understand if you want to understand what I think will happen in Ukrainian politics in general, I think that things are going to get much worse. Okay? I think that Zelensky will probably be seen as an ineffective leader that sold off the country, and that much more rabid ultranationalists will inevitably seize control over the entirety of the nation, and that Ukraine will be infinitely more right-wing than it was in this process. You might even get fucking assassinated. When you invade a country, ironically enough, a lot of people forget this aspect of my bad prediction. Something that I mentioned time and time again in the buildup to Russia invading Ukraine, something that I kept mentioning over and over again was how ridiculous the denazification argument was, okay? Every country has Nazis in their military. Every single one, okay? This is not a real argument. You can't be like, oh, we got to denazify. That's why we have to invade. You want to know why? As I stated time and time again, when you actually invade a country whose entire national mythos is built around not being a part of the country that is invading the country, Russia, whether it be the USSR or not, then yeah, all of the most rugged, all of the worst fucking Nazis are now going to be seen as liberators. Okay? You actually never denazify a country by invading them. You Nazify the country by invading them. Okay? And that's precisely what ended up happening. I mean, that is literally what ended up happening. All the people inside of Ukraine that previously were duking it out on the streets with football hooligans and paramilitaries that became the Azov Battalion or whatever the fuck ended up fighting alongside them. Because why wouldn't they? Because now you have a much larger problem at hand. Of course you're going to end up aligning with the people that you previously fought for, or the people that you previously fought against. That's it. So yes, of course the country, after being invaded, is inevitably going to become more right-wing and more reactionary. Okay? Also, speaking of which, you obviously have Nazi fascists on the Russian side as well. So that's another ridiculous argument. Anyway, Donald Trump has also said that I'm okay with that. Trump says that taking of Ukraine's membership in NATO off the table, I don't think it's practical. He says he knows Hegseth made a statement today saying that he thinks it's unlikely or impractical. I think that's probably true. U.S. will still send aid to Ukraine, but we want it secure, Trump said. All right, let's get to some of the analysis. Let's talk about what's going on, and it'll give you more of my thoughts on this issue.
And Ivor, we've heard from Donald Trump, of course. What is the Kremlin making of this? I see, as I speak to you, that they've just issued a statement. Do you have that statement?
I do, Mark. Yes, they have confirmed that this call has taken place, which is the first time they have confirmed there has been any kind of concrete contact between the two sides. And it is from the Kremlin that we've heard that the call lasted nearly an hour and a half, which is really quite significant. The statement has come from the Kremlin spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov. He has said a phone call between President Putin and US President Donald Trump has recently concluded. It was a very long telephone conversation. It lasted almost an hour and a half. He said that they discussed a number of topics, principally the exchange of Russian and US citizens. Yesterday, of course, was the start of that, with this former school teacher, Mark Fogel, leaving Russia with Donald Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, after a surprise secret visit from him to the Russian capital. And we understand that a Russian national is on their way back to Russia, but that still hasn't been confirmed by the Kremlin. That wasn't confirmed in this statement. But Mr. Peskov went on to say that the US president assured the American side will fulfill all the reached agreements, which by that he means, of course, that he believes that the Russian prisoner in the US will indeed be released. Now, on the key topic of Ukraine and peace negotiations, Mr. Peskov said that President Trump spoke in favor of the rapid cessation of hostilities and the solution of problems through peaceful means. President Putin, for his part, mentioned the need to eliminate the root causes of the conflict and agreed with Trump that a long-term settlement can be achieved through peaceful negotiations. I think one thing that really sticks out in this statement, I'm just reading it for the first time now, at the bottom it says, the Russian president invited the US president to visit Moscow and expressed readiness to receive American officials in Russia regarding areas of mutual interest, including...
I will once again reiterate the position that I maintained throughout the entirety of the Biden administration. The notion that you would never actually talk to Vladimir Putin, the notion that you would never actually force Vladimir Putin and China to the negotiation table was a fucking idiotic one. And it was also a lie anyway. They literally did negotiate with Vladimir Putin when they talked about hostages. They literally did that. They did. The idea that they were never going to talk to Vladimir Putin because they're evil, and Vladimir Putin is fucking evil, all right? Make no mistake. I'm not saying he's a good guy at all. But the idea that they were never going to come to the table and have a conversation was fucking insane. It's insane. Foreign policy demon, by the way. Mr. Foreign Policy. So awesome.
Including the topic of Ukrainian settlement. Now, this would be really quite something if Donald Trump, a sitting US president, came to Russia given every...
But what do you want the West to do, though? I get their motives are crooked. So what then? I mean, there are multiple different exit ramps that could have been enforced time and time again before coming into any sort of invasion, okay? Whether it be the continuation of the Minsk agreements and the enforcement of the Minsk agreements with a unilateral commission designed to make sure that the Minsk agreements were actually being followed through. That would have been great, okay? That would have been incredible. That would have been the number one thing to do. Now it's like, when you think about it, when you go all the way back to the Minsk agreements, when you go all the way back to that, okay, and you think about what Russia was, what Russia was stating in the Minsk agreements, that seems like a fantastic opportunity. Now it seems like it would never happen, because that would mean all of the annexed land that Russia took over in eastern Ukraine would be given back to Ukraine, and that LPR and DPR would be seen as autonomous regions that are still firmly within the Ukrainian national boundary, that would still allow Russia to have interference in Ukrainian political affairs. That was the major reason as to why the Ukrainian side, or the Western interests in terms of like following the Minsk agreements, never held up, because they were like, that's ridiculous. We don't want that shit, because then that would mean Russia has influence over Ukrainian politics. Okay, that's it. That was the initial thing way before the invasion. Okay, that's under the impression that Russians actually wanted Minsk to hold. It's a failure that was needed pretext to further capturing Ukrainian territory, which Putin sees all of it as his. Yes, this part is correct. Putin does see all of Ukraine as his. But there's two different ways of going about it, okay? I am inclined to believe Vladimir Putin when he says Ukraine is Russia, okay? I'm inclined to believe him. He says it in the same exact way that Israel talks about Palestine and Palestinians. He said it to Tucker Carlson, and he said it time and time again, okay? Having said that, however, there are two different ways that any country can go about this. And the other way that they were trying to go about this was to maintain influence within Ukrainian politics and bring Ukraine into the sphere of Russian influence as a border state that still creates a buffer zone between NATO and Russia. Okay? This is definitely going to get clip law. Wait, what? I'm not saying anything that is bad. What are you guys talking about? I'm inclined to believe that he means it when he says Ukraine is Russian. Ukraine is Russian territory. Now, you can either try to forcibly take over Ukraine like he did and failed to do so, or you can try to bring Ukraine into the sphere of Russian influence by manipulating Ukrainian politics to the best of your ability with two autonomous states comprised of what Vladimir Putin claims is ethnic Russians. You said I'm inclined to believe Vladimir Putin when he says Ukraine is Russia, but it was obvious what you meant in context. Yes, he believes it. I'm inclined to believe him when he says that he believes it. Okay? Like, as in, I think that is his main motivation. Do I agree with it? No, of course not. Anyway, having said that, however, your takes are awful on this, man. Don't say my takes are awful. Tell me what is wrong with it. Okay? Explain to me what is wrong with the takes. Just saying bad take is not dissent. Okay? Please. In any case, what happened to your W banner? Oh, here. Sorry, I turned off my banner yesterday because it was messed up. I don't know why. In any case, hold on. Then once Russia invaded Ukraine and went all the way to Kyiv and got pushed back due to a lot of support and a lot of defense from Western nations, NATO nations specifically, okay? Pushing back gave Zelensky some time to bargain and some leverage. Okay? Then the 15-point Antalya plan came through in that process. That negotiation was the highest level of leverage that Ukraine had. And their leverage since then has only diminished as Russian forces have been able to successfully push further and further into eastern Ukrainian territory and forcibly annexed and mined the entirety of the territory and hardened their defenses in the entirety of the territory that they took over. Okay? At that point, that was an exit ramp. And I gave credit to Zelensky as well in terms of the way that he wanted to bargain. Okay? Dude, people aren't going to just give up their land. Imagine if some country took over 30% of Turkey, you'd be on the front lines. You are delusional if you think that I would do that. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I understand that. I do. I understand what you're saying. I wouldn't fight for Turkey if some country decided to take 30% of Turkey, but that part is ridiculous. But I understand why people would. I understand why people would fight to rid their national boundaries of invaders. Okay? The problem is, what happens when you run out of people? The dynamic between Israel, Palestine versus Russia and Ukraine have a lot of similarities. Russia is an irredentist force that is forcibly taking over land and violating the sovereignty of a nation state. Okay? Israel is the settler colony that is dominating the indigenous population. But one key aspect of this is that we control all the cards in terms of what Israel can and can't do. We do not control all the cards in terms of what Russia can and can't do. All we can do is try to force Russia to incur penalties for invading Ukraine. Do you understand? So the negotiation process is entirely different. That's it. That's simply my position. Okay? We have virtually, we can tell Israel to stop tomorrow and they would be forced to stop. We can't tell Russia to stop because Russia is a foreign adversary. Its entire economy and its entire statehood relies on being outside of the American sphere of influence. There's still leverage, and America has pulled on those points of leverage to the best of their ability. But of course, we don't have the same level of control over Russia as we do over Israel. So the dynamic is different in terms of how you negotiate.
Everything that's happened in the last, decade, really, since...
Yo, all of y'all are brain rot getting your info from this goon. I'm out. TC Hassan.
Annexed Crimea, the last...
Nah, you only defend Russia because you're a communist like Putin? Yeah, exactly. Vladimir Putin is definitely a communist and not an authoritarian kleptocrat who is very much a capitalist. And yeah, I'm certainly defending Vladimir Putin.
US president to visit Moscow, visit Russia, was Barack Obama in 2013, and that was for a G20 summit. So that would really be quite something. And President Trump, in his statement, actually said that I think he reciprocated. I think he also extended an invitation to Vladimir Putin. Let's see if that happens. I think that would that's quite some way off. But clearly, already we've actually seen some an American official here in Moscow. That was Steve Witkoff yesterday, to arrange this prisoner release, the start, it seems, or the first piece of the puzzle in this wider negotiation of Ukraine. And the starting gun clearly has now been fired with this very lengthy phone call between these two leaders. And it seems like the first of many.
Yeah, and one of the bits that sticks out for me...
What should the West do? Force every party involved in this, including China, to the negotiations table and set up a treaty for permanent security. That's what America should have done from the jump. But considering that our goals were not actually to stop Ukrainians from dying, and our goals were to simply give them older weapons, a slow process of sending our older weapons to Ukraine, and maybe test out some new ones as well, experimental technology too. We didn't want that at all. A treaty with Russia? Yeah, okay, bro, that's useful. I will never stop maintaining the position that all wars end with treaties. Okay? That's how war ends. That's it. And the best possible moment to push for a treaty is when your side has the highest leverage, the highest amount of leverage. Okay? No, it ends with people actually, choosing to stop fighting. Oh my God. Okay. You don't push for a treaty when all of your manpower is dead. You're forced into it when all of your manpower is dead. When you have the highest level of leverage, you go into the table and you say, "Here, we're going to put a stop on this. We're going to implement a ceasefire." Even if neither party is truly interested in a cessation of hostilities. I've maintained the position over and over again that even if Russia were to not follow through on their side of the bargain, you're still back to square one. You're still in a defensive posture. You still engage in military action. But that's what you've been doing anyway. Iran treaty was useful, right? With USA, not even Russia. What? The Iran denuclearization agreement was an incredible achievement. What are you talking about? Do you think I'm anti-Iran denuclearization agreement? If America had actually followed through on their side, yes, we broke that treaty. Iran didn't. Donald Trump very famously broke that treaty. Are you in favor of Donald Trump's actions in throwing aside the Iran denuclearization agreement? What are you talking about? It was probably one of Barack Obama's best foreign policy accomplishments, aside from normalizing relations with Cuba. Donald Trump ruined both. Anyway.
Is where Putin says in this statement, or Peskov says in the statement about Putin, that for his part, he mentioned the need to eliminate the root causes of the conflict. Now that, for Vladimir Putin, of course, can mean many things.
Yeah, for Vladimir Putin, according to him, the root causes of this conflict is not Russia invading Ukraine. It's not Moscow's aggression. He has always claimed in the last 3 years that it's NATO's fault. It's NATO's historical eastward expansion that forced Russia's hand in his terms, to fight a defensive war. That's how it's portrayed here, and it has been for the last 3 years. They've built this narrative around the war to claim that the West is the aggressor, Russia is the innocent victim here. And clearly he's setting out the stall there, once again, ensuring that this is how these peace negotiations are viewed here in Russia. Because I think this is really interesting, actually, because when Vladimir Putin launched this so-called special military operation, which is how the war in Ukraine is still called here in Moscow, it's still presented as that, it's not called a war, it was supposed to be over in a matter of weeks, of course. It was supposed to be an outright victory. Peace negotiations, a negotiated settlement, is not how it was supposed to end, and yet that is not how it's being portrayed here in Russia. It's very much still being presented as that victory will be Russia's. You see all around Moscow these big signs saying victory will be ours, and I think no matter what happens in these negotiations, Russia will, of course, I think, even if they do get a more favourable deal, I'm sure they'll have to give up something and make some concessions. But I think no matter what kind of concessions, they will want to spin it as a victory over Ukraine.
Yes, both sides will spin their end of the bargain as a major W. Of course, this is politics. Russia will be like, oh my God, we did a fucking amazing job. We killed so many people. So many of our people died for the grayest land that is now also mined into oblivion anyway. It's like unusable farmland, but it's fantastic. It's a great W for us. Of course they're going to say that.
Over the collective West, and you get a sense of that from that statement there, that Vladimir Putin is minded to, for his part, to eliminate the root causes of the conflict, and agreed with Trump that a long-term settlement.
So killing people is a success to you? Do you think I agree with this? Wait, what? Why can't you admit that Trump is great at foreign policy? I love that chatter. He's just, that guy has no opinions, okay? Just throwing shit at the wall, seeing what sticks.
Can be achieved. He seems to be conflating these two ideas, that a long-term settlement will mean a victory for Russia because he's got NATO to back off.
Yes, and to what extent we've been hearing about this swap of prisoners, and we heard a bit more about it from the Russian side today. To what extent has this kind of exchange of prisoners, which we didn't know was going to happen, or I don't think we knew was going to happen, to what extent has that sort of paved the way for the phone call even?
Yeah, I think it seems this was crucial to get the ball rolling, the first piece of the puzzle. The American who has left Russia...
Half the breadbasket of Europe and resources worth $10 trillion, just gray land? I mean, I'm talking about after Russia is done bombing it into oblivion and also putting mines, like landmines, mining it and bombing it into oblivion.
He's been released from Russian prison, Mark Fogel. He was this former school teacher. I think Donald Trump clearly has identified that as something he needs to do first, to buy some kind of political capital, increase his political capital at home, because this was someone who missed out on that wider prisoner swap back in August, when dozens of prisoners, both in Russia and the West, were released, the biggest prisoner swap since the end of the Cold War. His family at the time were absolutely furious that he wasn't included, calling it a glaring injustice. And of course, now Donald Trump has got him released. And I think that was clearly a very important point to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, this is also another aspect of this. It's so funny how Russia is claiming they got NATO to back off when 2 new countries joined NATO. Like previously, those 2 countries had a neutrality handshake, okay? A neutrality handshake agreement. Now they're a part of NATO, okay? And on top of that, it's not like Ukraine was ever going to join NATO anyway, in the eyes of the NATO nations, which is a reality that they mention time and time again, even though a lot of people refuse to reckon with that reality. So ultimately, this wasn't a massive fucking W for Russia at all. Russia was able to show the world that, one, NATO is still very important, okay? Russia was able to basically deliver a gift to America in terms of how multipolarity is actually a devastating bargain for many of the countries that are currently under the security blanket of the United States of America. They reaffirmed their position to American empire and American dominance, while also simultaneously showing that they didn't have the military capabilities of overtaking Ukraine. So they showcased themselves as a paper tiger simultaneously, while showing the rest of the world that it's awesome to be under the security blanket of the United States of America. You probably put, in my estimation, okay, you probably put, you gave a lifeline to American security operations by at least another decade, if not 2 decades. Now, they still have nukes, obviously, which is the one thing that has stopped America from being fully involved in Ukraine, but it's done. You had the opportunity to continue engaging in trade and using the dominance that you have in terms of energy. That's the same thing you said at the time before they invaded. Yes, I did say this before they invaded as well, but it didn't fucking matter. Nobody listens to any of the... You can pick apart what I'm saying and present it as though I'm arguing for the exact opposite position that I'm arguing for. As I realized when I saw brief snippets of like the Willie Mack show and many other Hassan Loves Russia videos that were made at the time, I was wondering why the fuck people thought that I was pro-Russia. It turns out it's because they clipped my argument that I was making against Russia and presented it as though I was pro-Russia. Why is your audio cancer? Is it? Is there an issue with my audio right now? I'm confused. You are Delulu. Do you know that Putin died and now is just a clone? They could have taken whole Ukraine in a few months if they wanted to. Yeah, they definitely didn't want to take the entirety of Ukraine. That's what happened. That's definitely what happened. You're right. Anyway, Trump is live taking questions. Let's take a look.
With Vladimir Putin, and were there any preconditions set to agree to this meeting?
No, we had a great call, and it lasted for a long time, over an hour this morning. I also had with President Zelensky a very good call after that. And I think we're on the way to getting peace. I think President Putin wants peace, and President Zelensky wants peace, and I want peace. I just want to see people stop getting killed. We're very far away from that particular war, but that's a vicious war. Probably 1.5 million soldiers killed in a short period of time. I've never seen anything. I have pictures that are, you wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe what you have to look at. Young, beautiful soldiers that are just being decimated. And it would be nice to end it immediately. But we had a very good talk with people. Didn't really know what President Putin's thoughts were, but I think I can say with great confidence he wants to see it ended also. That's good. And we're going to work toward getting it ended and as fast as possible. It's a horrible situation going over. It's flat land, and the bullet goes off, and the only thing it can hit is a body, a human body, a young human body. And they're losing just tremendous numbers of mostly soldiers. Just the cities and
he loves
towns
that line.
Have been largely demolished.
He thinks it's poetic.
It's a shame what's happened to that country. It would have never happened if I were president. That I can tell you. Would have never happened. It's to look at that. And October 7th would have never happened either, by the way, the Middle East. But we'll get it. I think we'll get it. We'll get something done. We're going to be meeting... Actually, tomorrow they're meeting in Munich, as you know, and we're going to have some other meetings, and I'll be dealing with President Putin largely on the phone, and we ultimately expect to meet. In fact, we expect that he'll come here, and I'll go there, and we're going to meet also probably in Saudi Arabia the first time. We'll meet in Saudi Arabia, see if we can get something done. But we want to end that war. That war is a disaster. It's a really bloody, horrible war. I think so. We think we're going to probably meet in Saudi Arabia the first meeting. Hasn't been set, but not too distant future. We both understand, we know the Crown Prince, and I think it'd be a very good place to meet.
So it sounds like that would just be a meeting between you and Putin and perhaps the Crown Prince, but not President Zelensky?
Probably we'll have a first meeting, and then we'll see what we can do about the second meeting.
Did you also commit to go to Ukraine?
What about Ukraine?
Did you commit to go to Ukraine as
No,
well?
I haven't. I haven't committed to
Would
go
you
to
go?
Ukraine. I would think about going. Yeah, I'd think about it. No problem.
You say today, Mr. President, that they receive your vision. What is your plan to end this war? Like today, Secretary.
Well, I'm not going to tell you my plan. I can just tell you we've made a lot of progress. This
He
should have
won't
been
tell
done
you his plan.
by Biden, not by me, because this has been going on for now a long time, years. And it should have been done by Biden. Just like the young gentleman that I brought home yesterday after 2 weeks. We worked on it for 2 weeks. He was a fine man, and he was in there for 3.5, almost 4 years. And they weren't able to do a thing, and I got him out. And as you know, I didn't pay $6 billion. I didn't pay anything. We did a trade, and we did a good job. We got him out in 2 weeks. He should have been out years ago. Really should have been out years ago. I don't think it's practical to have it, personally. I know that a new Secretary of Defense who's excellent, Pete, made a statement today saying that he thinks it's unlikely or impractical. I think probably that's true. I think long before President Putin, they said there's no way they'd allow that. This has been going on for many, many years. They've been saying that for a long time, that Ukraine cannot go into NATO. And I'm okay with that. I just want the war, whether they are or they're not. But it certainly would seem to be that most people have said that is something
Quiet
that's
part
not going to happen.
out loud. There's no subtitles.
No, I don't think so. As long as he's there, but at some point you're going to have elections too. You're going to have an election.
What does that look like?
In terms of what?
If the war were to end, he says he wants guarantees of security.
We'll see what that means. I think when the war ends, one thing he was very strong about, if it ends, he wants it to end. And that's President Putin said that. He wants it to end. He doesn't want to end it and then go back to fighting 6 months later. We talked about the possibility, I mentioned it, of a ceasefire so we can stop the killing. And I think we'll probably end up at some point getting a ceasefire in the not too distant future.
Do you expect
Ukraine as an equal member of this peace process?
You said Trump isn't going to end this war. What's your analysis here? What's changed?
I think
no.
they have to
I
make
said
peace.
that this war will only end because Ukraine has no longer enough manpower. The war will end on the conditions of the battlefield. If it was slated to end, it is slated to end whether it's Trump doing it or Biden doing it. Okay.
Ceding territory or exchanging territory in any agreement to end the war.
Well, he's going to have to do what he has to do.
Also,
but,
look at the fucking Gaza ceasefire. Okay, we don't know.
Particularly great, to put it mildly. He's got a country where, it's been savaged and attacked, and
go back 10 seconds.
What made a lot of progress off, and the only thing it can hit is a body, a human body, a young human body.
Wow!
And they're losing
how
just
different?
Tremendous numbers of mostly soldiers.
How different?
What about Ukraine? Been done by Biden, not by me, because this has been going on for now a long time, years, and it should have been done by Biden. Just like the young gentleman that I brought home yesterday after 2 weeks. We worked on it for 2 weeks. He was a fine man, and he was in there for 3.5, almost 4 years, and they weren't able to do a thing, and I got him out. And as you know, I didn't pay $6 billion. I didn't pay anything. We did a trade, and we did a good job. We got him out in 2 weeks. He should have been out years ago. Really should have been out years ago. I don't know, Secretary of Defense who's ex-secretary. I think probably that's true. I think long before President Putin, they said there's no way they'd allow that. This has been going on for many, many years. They've been saying that for a long time, that Ukraine cannot go into NATO. And I'm okay with that. I just want the war, whether they are or they're not. But it certainly would seem to be that most people have said that is something that's not going to happen.
Are you freezing out President Zelensky of this process a bit? Isn't there a danger of that?
No, I don't think so. As long as he's there, but at some point you're going to have elections too. You're going to have an election.
He wants security assurances, Mr. President. What does that look like?
In terms of what?
If the war were to end, he says he wants guarantees of security.
We'll see what that means. I think when the war ends, one thing he was very strong about, if it ends, he wants it to end. And that's President Putin said that. He wants it to end. He doesn't want to end it and then go back to fighting 6 months later. We talked about the possibility, I mentioned it, of a ceasefire so we can stop the killing. And I think we'll probably end up at some point getting a ceasefire in the not too distant future.
Do you expect Ukraine
as an equal member of this peace process?
It's an interesting question. I think they have to make peace. Their people are being killed, and I think they have to make peace. I said that was not a good war to go into, and I think they have to make peace. That's what I think.
Ceding territory or exchanging territory in any agreement to end the war.
Well, he's going to have to do what he has to do, but, you know, his poll numbers aren't particularly great, to put it mildly. He's got a country where, you know, it's been savaged and attacked, and he's got an army that's been very, very brave, actually, despite the fact that, you know, we've given him, in my opinion, $350 billion. That's what the real number is. You don't hear that number. And Europe has given, in my opinion, $100 billion. And they've done it in the form of a loan. And I have a Secretary of Treasury right now who's actually quite brave. He's over in Ukraine on a train. And there's a lot of things happening around that train that aren't so good. And he's going there to get a document done where we're going to be assured that we're going to, in some form, get this money back, because we're putting up far more money than Europe, and Europe is in far more danger than we are. We have an ocean in between. Europe has nothing in between. You know what they have in between? They have Ukraine in between. So wait a minute. So as you know, Europe is putting up money, and they're getting it in the form of a loan. And the United States under Biden didn't do loans. They just handed money every time somebody walked in from Ukraine. They just handed them money foolishly. This should have never happened. It should have never started. And once it did, other things should have happened. Other things should have taken place. So we're getting security on our money. We're going to have it secured by, they have raw earth, and they have oil and gas, and they have a lot of other things. And we're asking for security on our money. They've agreed to it. Ukraine has agreed to it. And we are, but we want it secured. And the money is going to be secured.
When would the U.S. stop sending?
Because if we didn't do that, then Putin would say he won. We're the thing that's holding it back. And frankly, we'll go as long as we have to go, because we're not going to let the other happen. But President Putin wants to have peace now, and that's good. And he didn't want to have peace with Biden. And you tell me why that is, okay?
Was that conversation with Putin to start these negotiations part of the deal to bring Fogel home?
No, but it was a nice thing that he allowed Mark Fogel to leave. In fact, Mark wasn't feeling well, but he was, all of a sudden, about 2 weeks ago, he started being treated very nicely. He said they took him out for haircuts. They took him out. They helped him out a little bit and made him feel better, made him look better. And they were nice to him. And he said, I saw something happening. And it coincided with when I came into office. So that was nice. And he's a fine person. He was so happy to be out. He was there for 3.5 years plus. And he shouldn't have been there at all. They should have had him out much faster than that.
What does make you believe that Zelensky will...
Wait, go ahead, please.
Sir, just to be clear, do you see any future in which Ukraine returns with pre-2014 borders?
Well, I think Pete said today that that's unlikely, right? It certainly would seem to be unlikely. They took a lot of land, and they fought for that land, and they lost a lot of soldiers. But it would just seem to me, and I'm not making an opinion on it, but I've read a lot on it, and a lot of people think that that's unlikely. Some of it will come back. I think some of it will come back. Yeah, some of that land will come back. Who are you with?
Sorry.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask you, the things that the Secretary of Defense was talking about, the 2014 borders and the lack of NATO membership. Ultimately, these are both demands that Russia has made in the past. Is there not a danger of handing Russia a kind of win on this?
Well, I think that if you look at the war, the way the war is going, you'll have to make your own determination. I'm just here to try and get peace. I don't care so much about anything other than I want to stop having millions of people killed. Last night, you know, Kiev got hit very, very hard. I want to see people stop getting killed. That war is ridiculous. It should have never happened, and it would have never happened. Yeah, a couple of more questions.
Are you planning to sign an executive order of reciprocal tariffs, sir?
Yes, I am. In fact, I may do it today, and if I do it today, I could almost do it right now. Would you like me to talk about it now? I don't want to take anything away from this young lady's day, because this is her day, and I may do it later on, or I may do it tomorrow morning, but we'll be signing reciprocal tariffs. The world has taken advantage of the United States for many years. They've charged us massive tariffs that we haven't charged them. And as you know, I just did something on steel and aluminum, 25%. And that'll go up at some point, but 25%.
People that are confused about like extracting resources from Ukraine, we're doing IMF shit to our own nation right now.
Biden was even weaker on steel. And steel was just absolutely, it really started.
These guys will literally steal from America. They don't even have a sense of national identity.
What they did was, he was so worried about
they're not even real nationalists.
Opponent, what he was doing with respect to countries taking advantage. He should have looked at the countries, both friend and foe, taking advantage of.
Why the fuck would they care about Ukrainians and their natural resources? What are you talking about?
Widespread fraud and abuse.
Oh yeah, tremendous fraud. There's tremendous fraud, and it's hard to believe that you can have that kind of fraud. You're talking about like, are you talking about what? Wait. Which are you talking? You're talking about with regard to all of the investigations that are going on about this stupidity. What we're going to do is tomorrow I'm having a news conference. I'm going to read to you some of the names that hundreds of millions and even billions of dollars have been given to. And if you tell me that we should be giving money to those things, those entities, I think you'll probably have to leave as a reporter because you're not very talented. When you look at the kind of money, billions and billions of dollars being thrown away illegally, and there's no chance. I mean, I say it in front of our attorney general, there's no chance that there's not kickbacks or something going on. When you give millions and millions of dollars to somebody that stands to look at something for 15 minutes and walks away with millions of dollars, that money's coming back in some form. And that's only one form of corruption. The biggest thing is what they do to our country, they're taking massive amounts of money and spending it on items. I went through a list of 200 expenditures that were made, and I found 3 that looked like they were reasonable. Okay, 3. And we'll be talking about that tomorrow. We have a lot of stuff. And I want to commend Elon because he's done a fantastic. He doesn't need this. You know, he's abused by you people every day. He's found more things than anybody could find. I think he's got the credibility to do it. I know he does. And it's his group of people. You know, they started off with 12. I call them 12 geniuses. They started off with 12, and they went to 20 and 25, and now they're up to almost 100.
Thank you,
People are joining
Vil
to
Moragar,
help them.
for the 10 community to get the
This is a massive fraud
subs.
that's taken place. And then you have judges that are activists, and they sit there and they say, oh, as an example, $59 million going to a little small group in New York City. You get nothing going to North Carolina to help. Nothing. They say, we don't have any money because they've given it away on the border. But you have nothing. What they did to North Carolina is a shame. And then they sent $59 million to New York City for a hotel for a little bit of nothing, what they've done. A hotel that was not luxury, that's getting luxury rates for migrants, where they're making a fortune. And we catch them. But a judge says, well, even though it may be a fraud, you have to send the money in anyway. Send the money. I said, wait a minute. We have money that shouldn't go because we caught it before it was sent out. But they want the money to go anyway. And I think you're going to have a lot of things to look at, Pam. I really do. What's going on with this whole thing? And this is just one group. We haven't talked about Department of Education. We haven't talked about the military. We haven't talked about a lot of things that are very big. And what's happened is, as an example, you'll have cases where you have a 3-month contract, and maybe the guy that signs a contract leaves. Maybe he gets rich. All of a sudden he leaves for that reason. But you have a 3-month contract.
Smash the fast.
And
Thank you
maybe
for the
he leaves.
15
So
gifted.
the contract is sitting there, and the people signing the checks don't know it's 3 months, and it goes on for years. The 3 months turns out to be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Just goes on forever. And the guy on the other side of the contract just keeps getting check after check after check, because Elon had an expression yesterday, because nobody cares. It's a great expression. Nobody cares. The guy that signed the contract didn't care. Maybe there, may not be there. Be crooked. Who knows? But you have to care. Otherwise, you can't really run a thing like that, or you can't run a country, really, because there's so many transactions, thousands and thousands of transactions. And if you don't have people that care, you're going to lose control. And that's what's happened. And we've caught it. Now, what we caught is billions and billions of dollars, but it's a tiny fraction of the real number. Because you can never catch the real number, because people have gotten away with tremendous amounts of money. But I said we have to make our government smaller, more efficient, more effective, and a lot less expensive. And we could find $1 trillion, but we're being hindered by courts where they file in certain
People
courts
Camel.
where it's very hard to win.
Thank you for the 10 gifted.
And a judge will stop us, and a judge will say that it doesn't make any difference what you find. You just keep paying the money. That's a hell of a way to be. And I follow the courts. I have to follow the law. All it means is that we appeal. But that gives people time to cover their tracks. And that's what they do. So it's a very bad thing that's taking place. But hopefully, if the courts, the courts will be fair. They don't have to be very fair. They just have to be a little bit fair, because this is so egregious what's taken place. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Nobody's seen numbers like this. These are massive numbers. $9 million for somebody to go and stand in a store and see how people shop. Okay? I mean, you take a look at these things. It's a disgrace. And then you have a country that we want to make America great again. It's very hard to make America great again when you have things like this. And you're going to see the same thing. Department of Education is going to be a disaster. The military, I mean, I see it. Look, I came in, they had a contract done, as you know, for $5.7 billion for airplanes. It was Air Force One with Boeing. 5.7. I got it down to $4 billion, little less than that, 1 penny less than that. $3,999,999 and 99 cents. I said, it has to have a 3 in front of it, because I wouldn't sign the contract for $5.7 billion. I was able to cut $1.7 billion off the price. And it didn't take me long. $1.7 billion. If people would care, they'd be able to do that with every single contract that's put before them. And we wouldn't have deficits, would have nothing but a tremendously low-taxed, wonderful country. But they have to care. And speaking of that, you know, Boeing, we're not happy with the service we're getting in terms of those planes. They would like to get more money.
DEI.
We're not happy about.
They're doing
that
too
whole
much
thing.
DEI
We signed a
at
very strong
Boeing.
contract. I signed a guaranteed maximum contract, which they haven't seen in a long time, and they're saying they're getting hurt by it. but they have to produce the product, and we expect them to produce the product. They have to produce the product. They agreed to build planes at a certain price. They're not used to that. They're used to having time and material contracts where it's whatever it costs, time and material, no dates, no anything, and it ends up costing 5 times more. You look at some of the ships that have been built. Take a look at the Gerald Ford, the aircraft carrier, the Ford. It was supposed to cost $3 billion. It ends up costing like $18 billion, and they make, of course, all electric catapults, which don't work, and they have all magnetic elevators. They lift up 25 planes at a time, 20 planes at a time, and instead of using hydraulic, like on tractors that can handle anything from hurricanes to lightning to anything, they use magnets. It's a new theory. Magnets are going to lift the planes up, and it doesn't work. And they had billions and billions of dollars of cost overruns. I met the architect. I said, have you designed a ship before? This is one of the biggest ships in the world. It's like landing at LaGuardia Airport. But you look at the kind of waste, fraud, and abuse that this country is going through, and we have to straighten it out. We have great people going into the military in terms of we need ships, we need a lot of things. So we have great people we have business people going in. But when you look at what's happened to our purchasing, and when you look at the USAID, when you look at the things that they're giving to them, the billions of dollars that they're giving to, and it doesn't make sense. It is interesting that when you're looking for fraud, you look at items, hundreds of items, and you'll find one or two, maybe, if you're lucky. Here's something where you look at it, and they're all fraudulent. You know, by just looking at the topic, they're all fraudulent, except it's the opposite. You'll find one or two that's like a legitimate reason. So I just want to thank Elon for going through it. I want to thank all the people that are working with him. You know, we have a big group of people. I think the lowest IQ is about 160. That's very high. I think you have a couple of 182s in there, but they're doing a fantastic job. He doesn't need it, and they don't need it, but we're showing things, and it's going to be it's a big. People have no idea how important it is. Yeah.
So how soon do you want the Department of Education to be closed?
Oh, I'd like it to be closed immediately. Look, the Department of Education's a big con job. We're ranked, so they rank the top 40 countries in the world. We're ranked number 40th. But we're ranked number 1 in one department, cost per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world, but we're ranked number 40. We've been between 38 and 40. The last time I looked, it was 38, and then I looked 2 days ago, it came out the new list. It came out at number 40, so we're ranked 40. Norway, Denmark, Sweden, I hate to say it, China.
Countries famously with all private education.
And that's our
famously privatized education.
We're ranked number 40.
Famously decentralized and privatized education countries.
That means something's really wrong, right? And I say send it back to Iowa, to Idaho, to Colorado. Send it back to places that, and there are a lot of Indiana. You have a great new governor. You have a great senator that Jim Banks just got elected. You got great people. I'll tell you what, Indiana is going to be fantastic. We probably have 35, maybe 37 states that will do as well as Denmark, Norway, Finland, Sweden. They'll be just as good. Then you have the ones that we all know about. It'll be the same story. But you know what? Even they will be good. Because you look at New York, you give it to Westchester County, you give it to Long Island, you give it to Nassau County, you give it to Suffolk County. Same thing you go out to, and you give it to upstate New York. So you'd have 4 or 5 sections. You give it to Manhattan. Manhattan's a little bit tougher for some reason. I don't know why it would be tougher, but it is. You give to California, and you go to various areas outside of Los Angeles, and you might have 6 or 7 different subgroups. But generally, like if you go to Iowa, you give it to Iowa. You don't have subgroups, you have Iowa. And other places that do a good job. If they do a good job, they're going to do a great job in education. Those places will be every bit as good as the various countries that do so well. All the time, it's the same countries that are doing well. And so we have a Department of Education where people from Washington, D.C., who in many cases don't care about the kids out in the country. They don't care about the farms and the farmer's daughter and the farmer's sons. We have a massive bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. We have buildings that are all over the city. Department of Education. I never said Department of Education's on all these buildings. By the way, nobody shows up to work because they're all working at home. You know, quote, working at home. They're not working at home. And a lot of them have second jobs. And that's the other thing that Elon Musk is looking at. How many of these people are getting checks, working at home, but they're not working because they have second jobs and even third jobs? You're going to find a lot of them. And those people are going to be fired because we have to make our government smaller. All right, one more question. Yeah, Jennifer, go ahead. Nice to see you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Two questions, one on Ukraine again, and then another one on the Kennedy Center. Do you think that as far as your negotiating tactics go, did Pete Hegseth take away some of your negotiating abilities with Putin by taking Ukraine's sovereign integrity off the table, by taking...
No, I haven't done that. I'm backing Ukraine. I'm backing Ukraine. Don't say that. I'm approving, but I do want security for our money. You know, Europe is getting security. You know that, right? They're giving their money in the form of a loan. Nobody knows that. And why are we at 350 billion and Europe, which doesn't separate with an ocean like we do, we have a little thing called an ocean in between. Why is it that Europe is paying 200 billion less than us to help Ukraine? Very similar size. If you add up all the European countries, it's a little bit smaller than the U.S. in terms of the economy. Why is it that they're not paying the kind of numbers that they should be paying? And then on top of it, and I've been saying this to Biden, I told Biden, I said, you ought to be asking for either a loan or some kind of a security, like their oil and gas or something for the money, because you're putting up much more money than Europe, and you have no security. Europe's putting up a much smaller amount, and it's in the form of a loan, because we have people that were incompetent in the last administration, grossly incompetent, and we're changing it. But we change it, and all we do is we get hit by lawsuits from the radical left all the time. But here we are. We stand, and I guess we've done okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank God Donald Trump ended it just in time for PlayStation State of Play, which we will be moving into before we get back to the news, obviously. But we're gonna be taking a sidestep into PlayStation State of Play for a little bit, for an hour, as it starts in 6 minutes and 57 seconds. Okay, but he wanted to watch it too. Yeah, that's probably why. He's a big PlayStation head, I think. I can't wait for 2028 when Biden will have his revenge and save us. Oh yeah. Also, one thing I wanted to talk about with respect to pure graft, armored Tesla forecast to win $400 million State Department contract after Trump's election, government document shows. Thank you. Thank God. Thank God we have Elon Musk eliminate corruption, dude. This is once again unironically eliminating, okay? This is once again unironically ruining America's military might. This is the best possible anti-imperialist action you could engage in. Okay? Straight up. JD Pondon done did it again. Okay? JD Pondon destroying the American military might, American military capabilities by forcibly purchasing Elon Musk's shit-ass cars that we all laughed at when when Ramazan Kadyrov was talking about how Cybertrucks are fantastic in battlefield. It's a great car for battle. And everybody laughed at it. And now Donald Trump's like, no, Cybertrucks are great. They're great for the battlefield. It's awesome. Stocks are tanking, so they need to do something. Yeah. Nah, they got mad car chargers in war zones. Yeah. No, definitely. Definitely. The procurement forecast is listed as having been modified on December 13th, 2024, a month after Donald Trump's election. The State Department did not immediately respond for a request to comment under the heading extent completed. The documents reads merely to be determined. Now, we don't know if this will happen or not, but not even legal in the EU. Yeah, obviously, neither are tanks, chatter. It's funny to me, though, that obviously, like, Cybertrucks are awful. Like, they're barely fine to use off-road. Very cool. Very cool. This is going to unironically light the goddamn military members on fire. Okay? Yeah, they're barely fine to use on the road. And yes, I know that they're not legal in the EU. It doesn't matter. Neither are many of the American. Wait, what? He's still going? What is happening? Oh no, this is a replay, I think. It's going to it's going to go across enemy lines. It's going to auto drive into enemy lines. They making you commit when suiciding as they lock you in. You just hate Cybertruck because you hate Elon. I mean, I hate Elon because, yes, Cybertruck plays a role in why I hate Elon, because it's exactly the same kind of dumb shit that he does that people glaze for no reason. Anyway, speaking of people saying the quiet part out loud, let's take a look before we move on to the PlayStation State of Play, because the event is about to start in a couple minutes. Okay, why is this not fucking staying live? It's so goddamn annoying. Okay, I will play one last video from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth.
The United States does not believe that NATO membership for Ukraine is a realistic outcome of a negotiated settlement. Instead, any security guarantee must be backed by capable European and non-European troops. If these troops are deployed as peacekeepers to Ukraine at any point, they should be deployed as part of a non-NATO mission, and they should not be covered under Article 5. There also must be robust international oversight of the line of contact.
Basically everything you said about the outcomes for Ukraine are coming to pass. Yes, that's what that reporter meant when they asked if Hegseth cucked Trump's negotiation. I don't think so. I think Hegseth is not operating without Donald Trump's go-ahead. That would be ridiculous. All right, I have to pee. Hold on. 1 second. Am I the GOAT? You are the GOAT. U.S. Defense Chief suggests Ukraine should abandon hope of winning all territory back from Russia. Yeah, I know. He said that. I know he said that. All right, 10, 9, 8. Let's go. Let's go. The freaking PlayStation event State of Play is upon us. Remember, we'll go back to the news once this is over.
I had no idea just how big the world is.
And my food is here. Let's go. Wokester Hunter? No. Monster Hunter's not woke. It's Japanese.
Stand witness to how its existence unfolds.
We will do the classic thing as we tune into Asmongold's chat in a little bit. Don't worry. I'll pull it up when they're looking at. I'll pull up Asmongold's chat when they're looking at like women. Don't worry. I love doing that. It is now officially my favorite way to consume this content.
皆さんこんにちは。本作が発売後に楽しんでいただけることを心よりお待ちしております。本日の発表は以上となります。
Yes, Ono Hawaiian barbecue. It's grilled teriyaki chicken. Don't ask me what I'm eating. It's always chicken.
Forged to unleash vengeance more than a weapon. It is the soul of a shinobi. No obstacle can stand in their way. Soaring where others would not dare. Striking with lethal precision. Each weapon a tool. Each tool a part of the whole. This is the mastery of a shinobi.
This looks sick.
The legend continues.
This does not look sick. Mario Kart Sony PlayStation Edition? I don't understand. Isn't Sonic supposed to run? This doesn't make any sense. Why is he in a car? He's literally slower in a car.
Break free. I'm unbound from the laws that govern reality to turn the gears of time once again.
An apocalypse looms over parallel worlds.
Zelda.
As their fates begin to
Pog, Japan. Nihon.
The battle to alter destiny begins. Embark on a journey alongside gods, heroes, and monsters of bygone eras. The anomalies known as Digimon.
Oh my god. So they're just doing Pokemon, but with guns?
Seize the future together. The story of a bond that transcends time.
I'm not even joking. I think this could be better than the same slop that they put forward over at Nintendo.
大家好，我是《输入之魂》的创作者杨斌。从一名独立开发者到今天与 PlayStation 携手，这一路走来已历经10年。《输入之魂》结合了流畅爽快的战斗体验与丰富多样的世界设计，玩家将在各具风格的场景中探索，面对充满个性的敌人，同时与有趣的角色互动。 逐步揭开精彩的故事。
Wait a minute, that ain't
接下来，
Japanese.
我非常激动地向大家展示全新的
That don't
游戏预
sound
告，
like
并正式
Japanese
确
to
认
me.
游戏的发布日期。
What? China hero.
I keep having the same dream. A horrible dream where
Hold on
monsters
now.
invade our world. A powerful being falls from the sky, and when it seems they might vanquish the invaders, the dream ends. Is this really just a dream? My only hope lies with you.
Come, Kaiser. We will travel across worlds, leap through dimensions. Together, see great power within you.
Chat,
A
stop being
destiny
fucking cringe.
waiting to be fulfilled.
Asmongold's chat doesn't freak out when they see a woman they can fap to. You do not understand how this works. That's a woman they can fap to. That's not DEI. If you can masturbate to the woman, then it's good. They also like Chinese gaming because China is anti-woke. You don't know the dynamics. Shut up. Pull Asmongold's chat up. There's a woman on screen. That's not how it works. They love masturbating to Asian women.
You must.
Then give me your power, Arena.
You are not the chat whisperer. I am.
Hi everyone, I'm Sean Benson. We've got
Oh, this
several
is woke.
updates
Hold
today
on.
from partners around the world.
Now this.
Starting with news from the Like a Dragon series. First up,
This.
a playable demo of Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii arrives on PC. Players could try out
See?
2 battle styles, including Goromaji's
Dumbasses.
new
I know. I know was poppin'.
naval battles at the Pirates Coliseum. Sega and Mint Rocket joined forces in Ichiban's Holiday, a new crossover DLC coming to Dave the Diver. Ichiban Kasuga and other Like a Dragon characters team up to thwart a gang of troublemakers in classic beat-em-up style, all while perfecting new recipes at Bancho Sushi. Dave the Diver Ichiban's Holiday arrives this April on PS5 and PS4.
Wait, how do I pull out the chat?
The Splitgate 2 alpha begins February 27th on PS5. Use portals and futuristic physics to dominate the arena, and play a new 24-player mode where 3 teams compete on a massive map.
How do I just get the chat from a different community?
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman. I'm here to give you an
Oh, I
exclusive
found it.
first
Hold
look
on.
in the future of the WWE 2K franchise.
All right, I got it. I got it.
The Island. With The Island, players enter an online environment filled with WWE-themed landmarks, quests, live events, and shops with up to 50 other players at a time. The Island also offers deep customization, giving players the chance to personalize their My Superstars like never before. As the first of its kind for the franchise, The Island is not just an addition, it's a bold step toward the future. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to The Island.
What the fuck is this?
What's up? I'm Randy from Gearbox. And I'm Randy from Gearbox. And you know why we're here. We're here for you. Are you ready? It's 2025, and every day we are getting closer to the launch of Borderlands 4. Let's go!
Pog, another border. Wow, I can't believe they made a video game for the best movie of last year. This doesn't have the same jovial
So
attitude.
badass, so much fun. I want more. We don't have to wait long now. Borderlands 4 is going to break free for its special state of play this spring, focused exclusively on Borderlands 4. And we're diving deep, you guys. Join us. Borderlands 4, state of play for combat, vault hunters, action skills, exploration and discovery, everything. You're gonna see more guns than you can even count. All on PlayStation 5, but Randy, do you have anything else for us? I think I do, Randy. Well, what is it? Don't hold out on me, Randy.
You in what army?
I'll teach you,
Yeah.
baby bird. Who wants a launch date for Borderlands 4? This Randy. Well, Borderlands 4 launches worldwide for everyone on September 23rd, 2025. We got work to do. See you in spring.
I love when my favorite character says, "Oh, he's standing right behind me, isn't he? Did I miss DEI? Oh, DEI!
Nice to meet you too. More of your crazy stories. My crazy stories. But how are we supposed to get out of here if we don't start to trust each other?
I don't need your trust.
Well, I kind of need yours.
2, 1,
It takes DEI.
I took inspiration for this story from when me
More
and my sister
women.
were younger. Look at all of this. It's amazing. I base the story around my dad. All I can do is write this silly story. Oh, we'll face it together. We got this.
Yeah, Follow my lead. Are you for real, Zoe? I wrote it when I was a kid. What sort of double child were you? What now? I did not sign up for this. Brace yourself, Zoe! Attack!
Maybe they're being sarcastic. They absolutely are not.
Status report. Looks like it penetrated through there. We need to inspect the hull damage first.
More DEI.
Doesn't look too bad. Doesn't look too good either. What is that? You feeling all right?
My body's going one way and my mind's going another.
What is that? This ship is infected with an alien organism.
It still doesn't feel real sometimes.
Yeah, the woke mind virus, it seems. Look at all the people of color and the short-haired women.
Lord have mercy.
Do you think Williams knows more about this substance than he's letting on?
We can't take any chances with him.
It can manipulate its physical appearance. It's changing its cellular structure. It's replicating the human form. It's replacing us.
I know this will be difficult to hear.
Another USAID-funded video game, chat. Scary game? No, I play all these games. What are you talking about? It's The Quarry. This is the one type of scary game I do play because it doesn't require too much hand-eye coordination. Like, it's just QTE.
So let me explain the situation. Our contractors, Edwin Murray, has gone missing, leaving our property abandoned in his warehouse. Your job is simple. Enter the warehouse and retrieve the technology that he was developing for us. It's a kind of prototype endoskeleton that can adapt to any costume and become any character. We suspect it may be malfunctioning, so just be aware of the slim but non-zero chance that you could sustain significant injuries while attempting to retrieve it, including but not limited to death or dismemberment. We fully expect the retrieval process to go smoothly and without incident. But just in case, we suggest you get your affairs in order before arriving.
Is Five Nights at Freddy's woke? Is Freddy Fazbear woke? By the way, I've seen no bangers so far.
Your entertainment is not responsible for damage to property or person. Thank you for being a valued member of the Fazbear team.
Greetings from Moonhood. We're the creators of the Midnight Walk. Cozy horror game created entirely in clay, where you will journey down a nightmarish highway riddled with terrors that want to devour you and your little lantern creature, Hawk Boy. Together with your little friend, you must outsmart these terrors and bring back fire to this mad world we've handcrafted for you. So please enjoy this short gameplay preview.
That's sick. I like the art style.
From a deep slumber. Fire? I'd almost forgotten how it felt. You're the caretaker of this little firecracker? I reckon you must be headed for Moon Mountain. Am I right?
Close your eyes to make things clear.
This looks cool.
Special thanks to Klaus and Olav for that updated look at the Midnight Walk. Up next, a quirky new adventure from Konami. In Darwin's Paradox, you play as Darwin, a clever octopus who finds himself dumped near a highly suspicious food processing center. Use Darwin's natural camouflage and inking skills to escape the facility and save the world.
I might actually play this. Oh, this is sick.
We're excited to reveal a brand new title from Koei Tecmo Games and Omega Force. Warriors Abyss, a roguelite spin on the Warriors franchise. Descend into hell, call on powerful allies, and experiment with tons of playstyle combinations to send the enemy hordes flying. A roguelite hell awaits when Warriors Abyss launches on PS5 and PS4 later today.
I think her nose is stuffed.
For whom are you working? I won't forgive you. Prepare yourself!
A PS2-era classic returns with Onimusha 2, Samurai's Destiny. Capcom is enhancing the original game with HD graphics
I just got
and a host of
PTSD flashback. I just got hit with a wave of nostalgia.
Immerse yourself in Jubei's hard-boiled journey and fight through a world of turmoil alongside trusty allies. Onimusha 2 Samurai's Destiny comes to PS4 on May 23rd and will be available for pre-order later today. Looking to 2026, let's check out a new trailer for Capcom's latest entry in the series, Onimusha Way of the Sword.
Did she say PS4? Did she say coming to PS4? Did I mishear? I guess it's a PlayStation 2 remake anyway, but... Chat, this is the OG Sekiro.
What? Nanda.
Onimusha, Ninja Gaiden, these are games that are so goddamn difficult.
Colonel, tighten the security. He's coming here. I'm sure of it. America is out to destroy the Shadowheart and get its hands on your inheritance. The Philosopher's legacy. Then they're out to kill me as well.
No! Oh my god! Oh my god!
What's the story between you
Oh
and
my
the
god!
boss?
Oh my god! I'm nutting! I'm nutting! I'm nutting! I'm nutting! I'm nutting! I'm nutting!
The Cobras will take care of him.
Oh, it's just 3. It's just 3. I got. Wait. Was that 1? Was that 1? Was that a remaster of 1? Am I crazy? It looked like it was a remaster of 1. It looked like it was a remaster of 1. The first frame was from 1. Oh, it's just Snake Eater. I mean, it's still awesome.
Why'd you come back? There's nothing for you here. Go home. Go back to your boss.
I thought it was like a complete remake of MGS1.
There is nothing America can do to stop us.
I mean, I'm still nutting. It's still awesome.
I'm not finished yet.
No, I know this was announced. I prematurely nutted, okay? Because I thought it's all 3 Hasan. No, it's not. It's just 3. I prematurely nutted because that port is the first port you arrive at in Metal Gear Solid 1. And I thought for a second that they were remastering 1 as well. I pre-nutted, I pre-fired my nut. Oh, it's okay. I will still play this and I will enjoy every moment of it. It's an incredible, it's probably the best one in the franchise.
When the fury of emotions sparks the wildfire of violence, it dissolves our illusions and exposes the fragile structure of reality.
I have 1,000 questions. Why did you come back?
I stood in the home I was born in. In that moment, I felt a connection.
Epsilon 11, sound off. Where are my men?
They're gone.
Choose your next move wisely.
What happened here?
Madness and hatred and lots of it. Impossible. It's you. You must continue. We've begun to uncover.
This is DS2, isn't it? Or is it? There's no celebrities in it. It looks Kojimbo. Hell is us. It looked very Kojimbo, and it looked like it was a Strand type game. But the only thing that gave it away was that there's no like incredibly famous actors in it.
I'm sorry.
Like more famous than Adam Jensen.
What a pleasure to meet a stalker worthy of the name. It's been far, far too long.
Oh, my forever friend. Help me to hold your hand and dance.
You're not the puppet I was expecting. Who are you?
She was looking for someone.
Gay Bloodborne. Bloodborne is already gay.
She stepped up only because no one else could. Too many stalkers were lost to that evil.
Dude, maybe no. Bloodborne is gonna do. They're gonna do a remaster, dude. Bloodborne remaster incoming.
I'll do whatever it takes. Your survival is all that matters. Nothing else comes close. Not even my life. I swear I won't be late.
Twink Bloodborne. Bloodborne is also Twink. Bloodborne is coming, dude. If they do a Bloodborne remaster, I'll do a marathon. That's how much I know. They're never gonna do a Bloodborne remaster, even though they should.
Once in a lifetime.
I've never done a marathon. If they did a Bloodborne remaster, I would do a marathon. Weeb eating with chopsticks? I'm eating Asian food. Shut up. I'm eating teriyaki chicken.
Where do you think doors have eyes? We don't know where our children will put down roots.
Someone said Team Labs with guns.
皆さんこんにちは。Qゲームスのクリエイティブディレクターのバイオンです。私の最新作ドリームオブサナザーはいかがだったでしょうか。破壊なくして想像はないというテーマのもと、ドリームオブサナザーではシューティングゲームの常識を覆す体験ができます。
My man is dripped out in Issei Miyake, by the way. Home, please.
And I'm excited to share even more PlayStation news in today's show.
Dude was rocking the Issei Miyake.
Days Gone Remastered. The definitive version of Ben Studios' post-apocalyptic open-world epic comes to PS5 with VRR support and PS5 Pro support. It also includes added content like permadeath and speedrun modes, an enhanced photo mode, new
people from
accessibility
Thailand
features,
play this fucking game on TikTok live all the time, and it looks so cool when they play it. And I'm always like, what is this game? Now I know the name of the game. My TikTok live always has some like dude from Thailand playing this fucking game, or dude from India playing this fucking game.
Days Gone Remastered launches on PS5.
It looks
April
so
25th.
sick.
DLC is coming to Stellar Blade this June.
Pog!
The sci-fi action game is partnering with Goddess of Victory Nikke on a new boss battle,
Pog!
collectible dolls
More
and
ass,
stickers,
more
plus
titties,
a
I
new
hope.
outfit. Both the Nikke DLC and the PC version of Stellar Blade launch this June. We've got some great PlayStation Plus updates today, starting with game catalog titles arriving on February 18th. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Top Spin 2K25, and launching in a game catalog, Lost Records Bloom and Rage, from the creators of Life is Strange.
Did you girls ever see anything weird around these parts?
Oh, perfect time for
episodic
Asmin's
adventure,
chat.
players will join 4 high school girls living through the defining summer of their lives. What begins as a tale of friendship will eventually blend reality, dreams, and the unknown into a dual timeline narrative. The first episode of Lost Records Bloom and Rage arrives February 18th, with the second episode arriving in April. We're also excited to confirm 2 unique indie titles that will launch into game
Someone said
catalog
Life
later
is
this year.
DEI in the Asmongold chat,
Explore a
which is so
mysterious
funny
mansion
because
and
Life is Strange is the most
genre-bending
DEI game of all
architectural
time.
adventure.
What the fuck do you mean Life is DEI?
Every door is a new decision as you build out a sprawling manor with 45 shifting rooms, adding layers
Someone
of strategy,
unironically said
puzzles,
US
and
aid.
exploration. Blueprints launches day 1 into game catalog this spring. Abiotic Factor is a 6-player survival crafting game from Playstack and Deepfield Games. Stranded miles beneath the surface, you and a team of scientists must craft ingenious gear and traps to outwit your enemies and make this bizarre underground complex your new home. Abiotic Factor will be available in game catalog when it launches this summer. Now let's get a sneak peek at games coming to the PlayStation Plus Classics catalog. Coming soon are the first 3 Armored Core titles from the original PlayStation: Armored Core Project Phantasma, and Armored Core Master of Arena.
Not even
Meanwhile,
remastered?
Patapon 3 slides its way into the Classics catalog next week.
I don't play Armored Core anyway. It doesn't matter to me, but
No one knows how that world came into being. It devoured everything from the past. Only I was left. That was a fatal mistake.
It's the aura of the Grail pieces. I can sense it. As long as it is reforged.
My wish can be fulfilled.
no, it's not woke. It's not woke. They can fap to the girl.
To pursue one's wishes is to court one's doom.
What's up with the frame rate, dude?
Holy Grail. This is a feast only for the king.
Gwendolyn, this is your final warning.
Yeah, bro, they can fap to her and she's super white.
My quarrel lies not with you, but I will take back everything that belongs to me.
Chatters that keep saying DEI souls
Even
don't
if the
understand.
price of
This is
my
Asmongold approved. If there's a woman in a game, you have to be able to masturbate to her vociferously. If you can't masturbate to her because she's like not immediately abiding by heteronormative standards, then it's DEI.
Is something bothering you?
Just some noise in my core.
Down in the depths of Vulcan, you must retrieve the Architect's core.
They will send everything they have to stop us.
You know I would never want to see you hurt, but the path we walk demands the extreme.
I remember you.
Run away.
Oh, yeah. My memory's still a bit blurry. Remember this.
DS! Showtime!
I have these gaps inside my head.
Sound like it's a 10-minute window.
You made it. That's just leftover hardware. It's been decommissioned.
Oh, they're saying DEI because he's black. Oh, they're saying DEI because he's black.
All I know is that Silvercorp is a piece of my story. Are you? All this time you just wanted answers about the tech in your head? Are you kidding me? This thing has ruined my life.
You have no idea who you're dealing with. And what you did, we should have left you in the desert.
This is not the first time we've had a fatal error with your tech.
DS, make it stop! Make it stop! I know what I have to do. This is the only way.
Is this shittier Cyberpunk? Like, what the hell is this?
Hello, I'm Leslie Benzies, director of Mind's Eye, Builder Rocket Boy's new action-adventure set in the fictional city of Red Rock, where AI and human greed collide to bring Earth to the precipice of collapse. All captured on PlayStation 5 Pro. We're now proud to share some gameplay footage with the explosive combat and high-octane driving that you can expect on PlayStation 5 later this year.
I'll give it a shot if it's ex-GTA devs.
What's going on in there?
It was an ambush. Do what you can. Do not lose her.
I will say the main character is not very hot, which I'm kind of annoyed by.
Proceeding on foot. I'm coming to you now. The search and rescue bots. They're malfunctioning. They're attacking us.
I'll take. It's not fappable. I can't flick my bean to him.
It always comes back to this world,
this
moment, this choice.
Is this Dune Awakening?
Every time the sun dies, madness reigns.
Oh
Then
wait, he has a
everything
gun.
begins again. But after every death, I
know this guy.
Come back stronger.
Wait, what the fuck? Wait, is that?
I know that you are here, and I will find you.
What the fuck? That's so funny. George Soros. US aid, baby! US aid funded!
Hey everyone, I'm Gregory Loudon.
Oh my god, this guy literally looks like Asmongold. Wait, hold on.
To announce that our latest game, Saros, is launching next year on PS5 and enhanced for PS5 Pro. Saros is the ultimate evolution of the house market game. It's a new single-player IP that builds on Returnal's award-winning third-person action. You play Arjun Devraj, performed by the brilliant Rahul Kohli. Arjun is a powerful enforcer searching for answers on a hostile, shape-shifting planet.
That's sick. Dude, oh my god. Being mocap like that is so
fire. To share more about Saros, with our first look at gameplay coming later this year. Thanks for watching.
Wait, that's it? No. That's a joke, right? That's a joke, right? Wait, that's it? It didn't even last an entire hour? Like, yeah, I know that there was never going to be a Bloodborne, okay? There was never going to be a Bloodborne remaster because Sony is allergic to doing things right by the fans. They are allergic. They're fucking worse than Nintendo. At least Nintendo loves a good remaster. Nintendo will serve you the same hot garbo without fixing it over and over again. Sony refuses. We need 11 more Last of Us. You know what we need? Last of Us. We need it 18 more times. We need Skyrim and Last of Us. We will keep serving you that over and over again. Oh, you want Bloodborne? Oh, you want 60 FPS Bloodborne? Suck my dick. That seems like a really sound business decision, and we fucking hate doing that, okay? Yeah, guess what, dude? Here's the most expensive paperweight of all time, PlayStation 5. What a wonderful state of play that was, dude. Half of it is shit that's for the PS4. Nothing, rarely any new games coming in with a new engine. Oh my God. It is ridiculous. The state of affairs for gaming is dire, dude. It is fucking dire.
Damn, this guy's good.